why you were here?
This is it. Don't get scared.
Now listen, I told you, I don't care about planet Earth. I'll be your herald. You can consume whatever you want, as long as you promise not to kill me. Okay. Oh, hey there, guys. How are you? Welcome back to a brand new Flick Pick live show. This is it. Don't get scared. And we're going to talk about this bad boy, this Galactus amongst popcorn buckets momentarily. Just look at this. Look at this. They made this to simply put popcorn in, and I bought it. But I'm not upset about it. So we'll talk all about the Galactus popcorn bucket. I also want to talk about the brand new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer, because when it comes to video game movies, Mortal Kombat 1995 is still by and far the best the best video game movie ever made. And then we have to talk about the brand new horror film, which kind of feels more like a comedy movie, and that's I Don't Care What You Did Last Summer, also known as I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. So there's all that, and we're going to dive into your questions as soon as we cover all of those main topics, so feel free to submit your questions right now. But the first thing I want to talk about, since this is a movie live show and we talk about movies, I want to talk about a very magical experience that was almost cathartic in the best way possible when it comes to consuming cinema. And that is a place that I have not been since I was a teenager, and that's the drive-in theater. Now, where I live in Indiana, about 30 minutes north in a smaller community where a lot of people get arrested for methamphetamine, there is a great drive-in theater. And we went there last night, and it was one of the best movie watching experiences I've had in a very long time. So I wanted to share that with you guys, and here it is right here. So last night, we went to see Superman and F1 at the drive-in, and I have seen both of these movies previously, but there was something about watching it in the drive-in that almost made both movies better the second time around. And hear me out for a second. First and foremost, when I go to the drive-in, or when I do anything when it comes to movies, I don't just do it. No. There's a plan and there's a process, because if I'm one of those people that truly value my comfort. So what we did is we loaded up our SUV. I took the cushions from our patio furniture and laid them in the back of the SUV. I tilted the seats. So typically in an SUV, you can fold the seats down. I folded mine at like a 36-degree angle. That sounds good. We'll go with that. And I put all the cushions there and all the pillows and all the blankets. And our view was this of the drive-in theater. And first and foremost, when you park, there's sort of a hill. So you're angled up at the screen. And that picture might make the screen look much further away than it is, but it was much closer than that. And it was very immersive. But the thing about drive-in theaters, now you used to, when you go to the drive-in theater, and when I was a young kid, my family would go to the drive-in theater every weekend, because it was me, my three sisters, my dad, my mom, and my dad had one of those vans that sort of reminds you of the van that Uncle Rico drives in Napoleon Dynamite. It even had a mural on the side of it of some wolves on a mountaintop howling at the moon or something. It was one of those. It was sort of majestic. It also had a ladder, so you could climb on top of the van and lay on top of it and watch movies. Or you could open up the back doors, and there was a chair, or almost like a couch that would fold out into a bed, and you could lay there when you're a stupid little kid and watch the movie. So I've always been a fan of the drive-in experience. I have not found time to go for the last 20 years, oddly enough. But yeah, we sat here, we had all the blankets, we had all the snacks, we had a couple of chairs out there, but we didn't actually utilize them whatsoever. And then the first movie that night that played, as soon as the sun went down, it was Superman. And hear me out for just a second when it comes to Superman. I feel like I much more enjoyed this film in the drive-in atmosphere, because it added that magical and mystical vibe to it. And plus, I've been saying this since Superman came out. Superman feels like a 1990s comic book movie. If they would have made Superman in 1997, this sort of feels like maybe the Superman movie we would have gotten. But the other movie in production at that time, or pre-production, was the Tim Burton Superman movie with Nicolas Cage that never came to fruition, but I'm getting off topic. But just look at that view right there. Doesn't that just make you want to watch the movie? And the other thing I want to say, watching the drive-in version of Superman, and keep in mind, I thought the picture quality looked great. It was bright, it was vivid, but there is a certain softness to it compared to watching it in a normal cinema or auditorium. There's a certain softness and a certain glow that the movie has, which watching it again at the drive-in, it sort of made me feel like I had transcended or went back in time to 1992. And it reminded me of watching movies at the drive-in because first and foremost, the drive-in experience, it just feels like a time capsule. And if you want to go back in time and witness movies in a pure form, I recommend finding a drive-in. Wherever it is, get to it somehow, some way. But the other thing is, it has a softer image quality. So it kind of looked more like a movie from the 90s. And I think that made Superman better. It looked less polished. It looked less digital. It didn't look overly sharpened and artificial. And just adding that slight softness to the picture and giving it kind of a warmth and a glow, I thought the movie looked better. It looked like a real movie. So I think over digitization of films sort of are one of the things I don't like about modern day cinema. But anyway, it was a really fun experience. Here's my wife and I getting ready for the movie as the sun sets, getting all the pillows ready, the snacks ready. And they do have a concession stand there, and the concession stand looks like it's from the 1950s. If you've ever seen the movie The Outsiders, the opening of that movie is where all the greasers, Pony Boy and Johnny, Ralph Macchio, they go to the drive-in theater. And it looked exactly like that concession stand, which I like, So there's that. There's another picture. And then here's the second feature of the night was F1, which my wife had not seen, but I've seen it. And it still held up to me. But here's sort of a view of the night sky. And it's just, there's something about watching a movie under the stars. It makes it better. It's the perfect atmosphere. So I'm going to try to go back to the drive-in theater every week that I can. The only thing is, it is quite a production, and I'll tell you why. When it comes to the drive-in, they used to have speakers that you would attach to your car, these big metal concoctions that just sounded like you were hearing audio screaming at you through a tin can, and it sort of sounded like shit. But they did the job. But nowadays, drive-ins don't really have those anymore, and you pretty much consume the audio through your radio or through any radio. And we were driving up there to go see this movie, and we realized that on a smartphone, they're still not quite smart because you can't even listen to FM radio on a smartphone without an app. But the other thing that you can't do is listen to the audio at a drive-in, even if you have a radio app on your phone. It just doesn't work. I know, it's crazy. No one talks about this. It's like the year 2025. We have AI, but I cannot listen to a drive-in audio or listen to the drive-in audio on my smartphone. So I stopped at Home Depot. I bought a radio that was battery powered, and we sat that behind our head during the movie, and it sounded fine. It sounded cool. It was, and the cool thing I like about the drive-in, even though you're surrounded by a lot of other cars and people, the fact that you control your own audio, so you could bring 5 speakers with you or whatever you want, a radio, or listen to your car radio. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that because you have to turn on your car every 20 or 30 minutes to make sure your battery doesn't go dead. That would ruin the immersion factor. So I don't do any of that shit. But my radio right behind our head sounded great, and it drowns out everyone else around you. But you're in this little cocoon, the backseat of your car, just looking at the screen with the stars above you, eating all the snacks that you want, and it was glorious. So highly recommend going to the drive-in. But to add to that story, when we got there and parked, and we got there probably 45 minutes before the sun set and the movie started, there was this pickup truck that tried to back into the spot, and they sort of touched the front of our bumper of our car. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was just enough to touch it and push it in a little bit. And it was some young kid, and I could tell he felt really bad about it. So I made sure when the movie started, I was like, hey man, don't let that ruin your movie experience. Let insurance handle it later. So there's that, but it was fine ultimately. So yeah, that was my movie theater going experience this week at the drive-in. The only thing is with the drive-in though, there's so much preparation, and then you almost have to be a meteorologist like the week leading up to it, because you're checking the weather every day. You're like, okay, is it going to rain? There's a 3% chance, but then again, a 3% chance of rain could mean a tornado, so anything's possible. And I did see some lightning clouds out in the distance, but there was no rain. So there's that. And also the temperature has to be just right. It can't be too hot and humid, and it can't be too cold. It has to be just right. So there's a lot of factors at play when it comes to a drive-in theater experience. But just know, if everything goes right, it is quite the magical experience. So definitely check out the drive-in if you've never been. And a lot of places don't even have drive-ins anymore, which is kind of scary. But after going to this drive-in, it's sort of like, it made me want to open a drive-in theater at some point in my life. I think there's so much you could do with that. I really do. I think people want to go back in time and enjoy cinema in a fun, carefree way, rather than just watching it in a dark, cold, bleak theater with annoying people on their cell phones. And the other thing I will say about theater etiquette at a drive-in, or at least the one I went to, everyone was very well behaved. Like, everyone was like just watching the movie. They were quiet. You know, it was great. So I quite enjoyed it. And I want to go see more movies at the drive-in. All right. So for the next topic I quickly want to talk about is this bad boy right here. Now, this is the Galactus popcorn bucket. I ordered mine online, though you can buy this at a multitude of other cinemas. I just felt like this magenta plastic head with handles coming out of it would just make my life better. Now, I'll tell you what would ultimately make my life better. If this mouth could open up and you could push a button rather than just have his eyes turn on, which is pretty awesome. If there was just a little suctioning power right there, you could just think about the possibilities. Anyway, I think this thing's awesome. Now, here's where you put the popcorn, and you could probably fit like 3 buckets of popcorn in this. I mean, it's pretty deep. Look. It goes to my elbow when I reach in, so you just know you're gonna have a good time. So this thing's awesome. Here it is. Are you guys planning on picking up the Galactus popcorn bucket? I would recommend picking it up because I feel like this thing is gonna sell out, and ultimately it will be worth more on eBay in a year or two. So I would like to consider this an investment in myself, but it looks cool on the shelf. My only negative is I really wish you could keep the lights on all the time, because there is a button right here. And you just know the battery's going to die in like 5 minutes. So I wish there was a way to like hardwire this to have the eyes on all the time. And maybe I'll look into that. It shouldn't be too hard. But yeah, so what do you guys think about the Galactus popcorn bucket? I'm in love with it. I mean, his head is like bigger than mine. Look at that. What's that? Shh, don't tell anybody. Okay, so we'll set him down for now. But I just wanted to share this with you. I think this thing's like at least over, let's see, 12, 13. It's like probably got to be like 16 inches high from the peak right here to the bottom of the base. Yeah, about 16 inches? That feels about right. I get out a measuring tape, but it's in my garage right now. So there's that. Who needs a wife when you can get a Galactus popcorn bucket? Exactly. That's what I've been saying. It's pretty deep. That's what she said, John. No, that's what he said. Okay? Let's flip that around, all right? All right. Let's go to the next topic here. And the next main topic we have to talk about, and I meant to do this the day it came out, and I've watched this trailer sort of kind of just once. I watched it on my phone driving down the road, okay? That's when I watched this trailer, and I was savoring the flavor to sort of watch it with you guys. So we can't watch it in its entirety. I'm going to have to stop it and go because of copyright and monetization and blah, 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 because fair use laws simply do not exist to studios. But I want to talk about the brand new Mortal Kombat 2 trailer where you have Carl Urban becoming Johnny Cage. Yeah, I'm Johnny Cage. He sort of has that Judge Dredd vibe, and I like it. Now, when it comes to Mortal Kombat 1995, that is one of my favorite video game movies ever made, and I still think it's probably, and this is debatable and maybe arguable, is that a word? For the sake of this video, it will be. But I still think that is ultimately like the best the best video game movie ever made. I do. From start to finish, I think it is the most pleasing video game movie we've ever had, at least in live action, okay? So, and I just watched it again the other week because the theme song to that, I was trying to explain to my wife. I was like, when I was a kid, and even into my early 30s, whenever I cleaned the house, I would do it shirtless, but I would listen to the Mortal Kombat theme, and it made life better. Like, I would sweep the floor and do scissor kicks and say, get over here, and it just... But anyway, I love the first Mortal Kombat movie quite a bit, and I wanted to watch this trailer with you guys, so here it goes. Let's watch it, share your thoughts, and let me know what you thought about it down below. But here it goes.
Uno mas, thanks.
You're Johnny Cage. I love Citizen Cage.
Citizen Cage. See, this is what I love about this. This is exactly what they should have done. Now, when it comes to that 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, which I thought was instantly forgettable, they had a generic character in there. What was his name? Like Kane or Cole? It was Cole. Some generic nobody guy who was the main character in a Mortal Kombat movie, when you have this legacy of 500 characters to pick and choose from that are iconic and people love, but you're going to have some generic like NPC character come in here and be the main character. I thought that 2021 Mortal Kombat movie, I was excited to see it until I saw it, and then it didn't even have a tournament, and 90% of the things they did in that movie just... It felt like it was made for streaming, and it sort of kind of was in a way. But anyway, let's keep going.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And I think Carl Urban as Johnny Cage is perfection. I'm going to have to scroll by a few more of these moments. Yeah, then you have Raiden. Now, the dude playing Raiden... It's fine. I like my Raiden from, what was it? Christopher Lambert from the 95 movie I thought was better. The fate of the world rests in your hands. All right. And then you have Katana right here. But the coolest thing about this new trailer is... They're actually, like, it looks like there's more fight scenes. It looks like they're going a little more fantastical than that previous attempt did. And keep in mind, in that 2021 movie, you had Goro, the most badass Prince of Darkness that has 4 ligaments coming out of his torso, and he gets beat up by Cole in a garage. Just some dude's garage in his backyard. Not like in front of a volcanic lava pit on the edge of a cliff in Outworld. No. Somebody's garage. Like, yeah, okay. It felt like it was an amateur film trying to be a Mortal Kombat movie. And then you have Shao Kahn right there, looking all badass, which is kind of exciting. Then you have a portal right there. Then you have Sonya Blade and whoever that guy is in the back. But I like that they're going a little more... Like, I like this fantastical element. I think that's Jade, right? There's Jax. But there's a cool scene. I wanted to talk about this scene right here with... There it is.
I'm an actor.
And then you got Baraka right there, which looks like Baraka, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, I think that looks legit. But where's the scene with Scorpion? There's a scene in here with Scorpion I wanted to show you guys. There it is. See, I like that you actually see Scorpion's lair. Now, I'm not a big fan of the look that they gave, like, Scorpion and the ninjas in this movie. I wish they looked a little more accurate to their video game interpretations or adaptations. I like when Scorpion actually has more yellow. I know that might be a bit cheesy, but I like it. But I think this looks pretty cool. But the part where he... Watch this. Get over here! Oh, and just a fatality on Noob Saibot, which kind of looks... He looks a little more like his ninja predecessor self right there, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I'm digging this trailer. The other thing... you do hear a little bit of the original score in the theme of this, but not enough for me. I don't like this like hip-hop version of it. Or is it right here?
The hero. Are you shitting me? You don't have any powers?
I don't know. For me, I want EDM in my Mortal Kombat themes.
The show spins hours.
So anyway, those are my quick thoughts on the Mortal Kombat trailer. I quite enjoyed it. I think it looks way better than the previous attempt. At least it looks more like a Mortal Kombat movie I wouldn't mind watching for 2 hours. So what do you guys think about this? Noob Saibot looks great. Get over here. Looks like the Spawn hell scene. Now that was the first thought I did have. That hell scene did look a little digitized, but it doesn't look anywhere as bad as the Spawn hell scene from the 1997 classic Spawn. Which, fun fact about that scene, let's watch it together right now, because I need you guys to understand what we're talking about if you don't. Okay, here's the Spawn hell scene from 1997. So they go down to hell, and here's Spawn right here, standing in front of what looks like an obvious green screen. But you know what? You'd make a good point. It kind of does look, it does look a little similar. But then again, a majority of CGI looks this way nowadays. Oh, yeah, okay. Now, there's no arguing this looks like complete ass. Okay, there's no arguing this. But the reason that this looked this way was because what happened with the production of Spawn, they literally ran out of money. And I think they changed the ending to the movie to be this. And they summed it up very quickly and very cheaply. And this is the best they could do. But yeah, it's I think that Mortal Kombat scene looks way better than that. Don't you? Just slightly? Just maybe slightly? I feel like I could do better VFX if you just gave me like a green sheet and 10 minutes. Like with green screen work. But anyway, you do make a solid point though. Kind of does. All right. Gorilla Beach says onion cutting. Are you crying? I'm not crying. You're crying. Man of Steel is a far better movie than the new Superman movie, and I like both. Yeah, the thing is, watching Superman again on the at the drive-in, I have all my same complaints I have originally with my review, and I stand by everything I said. You know, I think the things that they do get right, I think David Cornsweet as Superman, I think for that interpretation of Superman where he's a little bit more naive and childlike and a little more innocent and even more of a Boy Scout, I think they get that right. And I think David Cornsweet was very well casted for that. And if you want classic, iconic Superman from like the comic books or the animated series where he's lifting up buildings and saving squirrels, you get that. I do think you get that. But the thing with the Superman movie, outside of like anytime you have David Cornsweet doing anything as Superman, I just don't think anything else in the movie is that interesting to watch. And that doesn't mean I think it's bad. Like the Justice Gang, I thought they were fine. I liked Nathan Fillion. I liked Mr. Terrific. But what did they say or do that really stood out? You know, like Lois Lane was fine. But the thing that you really notice about Lois Lane if you watch the movie again, she is sort of like the yin and yang to Clark Kent. She is just negative and challenging him the entire movie. Like everything that he likes, she shits on. And like everything that he says, she challenges him. And then even at one point, she's like, I guess I'm just not good at relationships. And it's like, yeah, but that's Superman, like the nicest guy ever. Like Lois Lane, if it doesn't work out with him, I think you need to get back on Tinder and find another dude because I don't know who's going to work out for you. I think that's a reflection on your own being. But yeah, it's a fine movie, but I wish there was a little more meat on the bones at some points in Superman. There are some moments where it's like it just refuses to get deep enough to care. And I still stand by that. But it is fun. It's easy to watch. It's easy to consume. And I get why families would be drawn to it. But when it comes to like being the foundation and the starting point of the new DCU, I think it's a very safe start. I think it's like the movie that is easy to consume. And I said this on X, and a lot of people got very offended by this, but I said, Superman is sort of like cinematic baby food. It's easy to consume. You don't have to think about it and chew on it much. And sometimes baby food does the job and tastes good. But at the end of the day, I'd rather have a steak. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it's cinematic baby food. It's easy to consume, and there's nothing wrong with that, especially if you don't want to turn off audiences to your new DCU. This is a nice, easy way into it where everyone's going to be like, okay, I watch the new Superman movie, whatever age or demographic you are, and then whatever they do next, maybe they can take a risk. My only nitpick would be, I think what they did tonally speaking for the Superman movie, it works in Superman. But if every DCU movie feels that zany and wacky and over the top and cartoonish, that's sort of a turnoff for me a little bit. I want movies to have a little more depth and emotion. And I'll say it like this, and I think I've said this before. I think some of those early solo Marvel movies from like 2008 to 2000 and like, I don't know, we'll just say 2015, whatever. I feel like they were able to get the comic booky vibe of it, but still have the drama in there. And I just like a little more balance like that. If DC wants to be more like Marvel, okay, that's fine. Let's be more like Marvel and add a little more drama in there. So that's all I'm hoping for. And when it comes to James Gunn movies, if you compare Superman to like Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, or 3, especially 3, those are all much darker movies at the core of what they really are. They really are. And they also have more drama and heartfelt moments. And I think they're just better screenplays overall. And I think objectively speaking, you almost have to agree with that. And I think Superman could have used a little more of that, you know? But the other thing I did want to say, and since the movie's been out for a couple weeks now, I think I'm just going to mention this. It doesn't really ultimately spoil anything about the movie. I want to say this, and then we're going to talk about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and then we'll dive into your questions. So keep getting those questions in, because I'm waiting, I'm willing, and I'm ready. And I also have a caffeinated beverage right here. So Alani energy drinks, they're good, but they're a little too sweet. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yes. The last thing I want to say about Superman is, can we talk about Jor-El? Let me just bring this up for a second here. Let's find an image of... And once again, if you haven't seen the movie, this ultimately is a subplot that does not really spoil anything, in my opinion. But to some people, if you say Superman wears red underwear, people feel... like that was a spoiler. But anyway, the movie's been out for a few weeks now. Shit, I can't find it. Anyway, we'll just go with this image here. Okay, 3, 2, 1. This might be a slight spoiler for Superman. So put your earmuffs on just for a second. So in Superman, you have the big dilemma that Superman goes through. I'll just take it off. Who cares? The big dilemma that Superman goes through is, growing up, he had one video message from his parents, Jor-El, his father, who was played by Bradley Cooper in this film. And originally, Jor-El in the first Superman movie was played by Marlon Brando, and then later played by Russell Crowe. But that original message that he grows up believing is, go there, do well, be good, serve the people of Earth, and be a good man. Right? And then Lex Luthor uncovers this encrypted hidden message that says the complete polar opposite. And it says, destroy humanity and pillage and take what you want from the women of Earth and plant your seed, Superman. So there's that. And then that's the whole dilemma with Superman in the movie for the second half, where he questions himself and he's like, who am I really? And then ultimately he's like, I was raised to be good and I can decide my own fate. You know, it's nothing that profound, but I like the moral message, and that's great. But the thing is about this video transmission that Lex Luthor uncovers, I don't comprehend why anyone believes this is legit for 1 second. And watching the movie for the second time, it was even more stupid that it's even a plot point anyone even for 1 minute second considers that this is a plausible reality. Because keep in mind, the logic that backs this up is they had 38 experts who, like, I don't know, decode video evidence or something, or read. In the movie, they actually say they had 38 experts prove that this video is actually a legit video. They don't actually specify that what he's saying is legit, though. Though that's open to interpretation because it's an alien language that no one knows, so it's all open to interpretation. He could be saying anything and you wouldn't really know it. So that makes no logical sense. And the guy who brought this to fruition is Lex Luthor, who clearly has a vendetta against Superman. So I'm willing to assume that he's willing to lie, cheat, and get his way however he wants. And then there's one scene that backs this all up with Mr. Terrific saying, yeah, those guys who watched the video, they wouldn't lie. Okay, who are these guys who watched the video? So we're just taking their word, for this message from an alien race billions of light years away that said enslave Earth. And we're taking this as fact. I just think it's really stupid. And plus, if you really consider that video message from Jor-El, the first half of it is completely positive and the second half is like, it's almost like he became bipolar and just said the complete opposite of what he just said 3 seconds ago. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm willing to assume that if you can have AI right now, I'm pretty sure that that video message was interpreted wrong, or it's a blatant lie, or maybe the twist is Jor-El is maybe not Jor-El in that, and he's somebody, I don't know. But anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. I just thought that whole subplot was sort of stupid watching it again. It felt so forced and contrived. It made no sense whatsoever. Sean Wood says that's not what he said. Yes, it is. That's almost exactly what he says. What are you talking about? Brightburn Part 2. That'd be a good Superman movie. All right. Superman is too old for Gunn. He wants Superboy. Yeah, he definitely... this interpretation of Superman, watching it again... When you're watching Superman act, like when he's just Clark Kent, he doesn't really feel like a grown man to me mentally. He sort of feels like even when he's like, I'm a journalist. Let's do an interview, Lois. I'm like, that guy does not have the mental competency to be a journalist. He feels more like a personal trainer that you would see at the gym. Did anyone else get that vibe from Clark Kent? And there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, he definitely should have been like a 19-year-old version of Clark Kent, not some 30-something-year-old man. Because the mentality that he has, it reminds me of like dudes I used to hang out with in my early 20s. He definitely doesn't feel like he would be a reporter. He feels like a dude that you would see like that would be a personal trainer, but a nice guy nevertheless. I'm just saying. All right. So those are my quick thoughts on rewatching Superman. And the last thing I want to talk about, though, before we dive into the questions, is a little movie that came out this weekend that I've been meaning to make a review for, but it's been a very busy week. Murph says, since when do journalists need mental competency? Good point. Very good point. The last thing I want to talk about, though, is what is it called? Oh, I Know What You Did Last Summer. But the question is, do you even care what they did last summer at this point? Because keep in mind, this is just the first movie that came out in 1997 with Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I think that was a fine movie. And I think that's a good slasher film that had a very 90s vibe to it. And it had this iconic teen lineup of actors that had some charisma and had some gravitas in the 90s. So it added to the vibe of it. And plus, keep in mind, this was hot off the heels of Scream. This is what like people wanted to see more of. And also a fun fact that we talked about on a previous live show was I Know What You Did Last Summer was actually a screenplay written by the same writer of Scream, but written before Scream came out, which gained popularity, and thus that's why they greenlit I Know What You Did Last Summer, even though it was written before Scream. And I've never loved I Know What You Did Last Summer. I think when it comes to the antagonist of the story, the fisherman, I get that he has a vendetta against these pompous, arrogant, stupid teenagers that did basically commit a hit and run and throw his body in a body of water and never took responsibility for it once. Even 25 years later, none of the legacy characters have taken any responsibility for that hit and run accident. They're still just living with regrets, but they'll do everything except take responsibility for what they did. It's like, yeah, we hit a man. We're guilty. Punish us for our crimes. No, they never do that. And nothing has changed in this new one, really. But when it comes to this new movie, you have a new cast of characters that they all sort of feel like they belong in the show Love Island. They're all just generic people that look like they're 33 years old playing teenagers. And this movie leans very heavy into the meta comedy vibe that most slasher movies have nowadays. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind some comedy in a slasher movie. I think it's fun. It adds a little more to it. But man, this movie feels more like a comedy that just happens to have like the plot of I Know What You Did Last Summer in the background. There are just slapstick moments where characters are making jokes that you would hear in like a rom-com. But here we are with this. And I think this new trend is simply done because like no one wants to just make this like gritty, gory slasher film. Everything has to be a comedy and a slasher at the same time, but it's almost more of a comedy. And I miss that darker tone. I just think it's way more immersive. When I watch a dude with a hook gutting people, I want to feel like I'm on the edge of my seat. I don't want to have laughs and jokes every 5 minutes. It just takes me out of the movie. I think that's just a bad contrast. I do. A little bit of humor every once in a while, but never take away from the suspense. And this movie has no suspense. So it's basically a reboot, sequel, legacy movie, and it's more or less just a watered down version of the original movie. And the more I think about it, the more I hate it. I hated the first act of the movie because I wasn't quite sure what they were going for with the tone. And when I say this is watered down, I mean this is watered down because in this new installment, first of all, it looks and feels like a Netflix movie. It doesn't feel like a real movie at all. But the premise to this new movie, in the original, a few of the characters were drunk, so they were afraid that they would be blamed for getting a DUI and hitting someone, and there'd be legal consequences. In this new installment, basically, really, they didn't do anything that wrong. And there's an accident that happens. But also, I feel like it was almost driver error on some degree. And they even go so far as to call the cops. They kind of do like 90% of the right thing in the circumstance that they're in. So ultimately, like when it comes to the revenge aspect of it, it doesn't make any sense. And when it comes to the twist at the end, it's the dumbest thing I've seen all year in the cinema. It makes zero sense. This is like, it was written by troglodytes. It's like, okay, because he's in the movie and she's in the movie and that guy's in the movie, I guess we should just do this. Okay, what's their motivation? Well, that doesn't matter. We'll just say they did it. Got it, go. And it's stupid. And by the very end of the movie, it just turns into a complete comedy movie where they're basically making fun of the plot and the premise and everything that just happened and how nonsensical it is. So suffice it to say, I think this movie is just really stupid and dumb. And when it comes to the kill scenes by the fishermen in this movie, there's nothing new. There's nothing you haven't seen. There's like a scene with a harpoon that looked like Scorpion. There's a scene with a cage that drops down on somebody. But they're so short-lived that you just don't care. And also, you don't care about anyone in the movie. Now, it was cool to see some of the legacy characters come back. Jennifer Love Hewitt, man. When I was a teenager, I guess in 1997, I was only like 10 years old. But I always had a crush on Jennifer Love Hewitt. Don't even get me started on Can't Hardly Wait. Oh, yeah. But I always had a crush on her, so it was kind of cool to see her come back in this movie. And there is a lot of online debate and controversy when it comes to Jennifer Love Hewitt. She got a little older, she got a little thicker, but, people age, and I just hate when people on the internet say shit like that. It's like, go look in the mirror. Who are you to say anything about Jennifer Love Hewitt, who still looks pretty hot for being almost 50 years old, I'll be honest. But yeah, so she looked fine for a lady in her upper 40s or 50s, and plus she doesn't even really act anymore, so it's not like she's been in the spotlight a lot over the last 20 years. But yeah, man, if you guys plan on seeing this movie, I would say just watch it on streaming on a wet, cold, rainy night, and it's an instantly forgettable movie that ultimately doesn't matter and offers nothing new to the franchise that you haven't already seen before. And really, I would just say this. Just go watch the original from 1997, which I've never loved either. I don't know. The fisherman character I always thought was sort of boring, and I hated all of the kids in the movie. It's like they're all guilty. They all committed a crime. They should all be punished by death. Gut them. Decapitate them, fishermen. I don't care. Feed their entrails to the Davy Jones locker and let fish eat them. I don't care. Like, they're all guilty. So anyway, those are my quick thoughts on I Know What You Did Last Summer, and I just simply don't care about what they did last summer. Okay. So those are my quick thoughts on that, and without further ado, what do you say? We dive into your questions, and you guys are killing it already. So I thank you guys for that. Whew, how long have we been talking? 40 minutes? I've been talking for 40 minutes. Okay. All right. So the first question comes from, let's scroll way back. Here we go. We got one here from Jeff. And Jeff says, hey, John, what brand of magic gummies do you take? Oh, like Delta 9s or something like that. They just taste like Sour Patch Kids. They do the job and they make movies better. I don't know the brand. I really don't. Jeff also says, what are your thoughts on the Golden Girls? I watched a few episodes growing up. Never really was into it. I'm trying to remember what their names were. And I can't. But they all had great perms. Thanks for changing. Jeff also says, thanks for changing the time of the stream so we can watch it in the UK live. Are you excited for the new season of Stranger Things? Absolutely. Now, that's another new trailer that came out, but I'm sort of refusing to watch it. I don't need to watch it. I just don't. I'm going to try to avoid it as much as I can because I just want to enjoy Stranger Things. That is my pure escapism. That's one of my favorite shows ever made. So it's sort of like a gift I'm going to give myself. But yes, I'm absolutely excited for Stranger Things. And the other thing when it comes to Stranger Things, I am not upset about them breaking up the final season into a few parts at all. I think that's the best thing they could do, because when you have it all at one time, you feel this urgency to binge it all before someone spoils it. And I like sort of consuming things on a weekly basis. I miss that. I miss that conversation that would allow for people to have. And so when the first part comes out, we can talk about it for a couple weeks. And then the second part, we can talk about it for a couple weeks. So I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to Stranger Things. Are you guys looking forward to Stranger Things? Let me know. Jeff says, enjoyed the flick trip. Great work. What's your new job for the future? It deals with home inspections and insurance, and it's not necessarily something I'm that passionate about, though I'm okay at it. But it's flexible. I don't have to work and deal with people, and I think that's what works best for me. That's why I've been talking to a camera for over a decade. I like you guys, but society, no, not so much. And then the last question from Jeff is, I would like to start watching Mission Impossible as I haven't seen any before, but whatever, I start watching and see Tom Cruise, all I think is Scientology, crazy behavior, and jumping on a sofa. How can I get past that to start enjoying the film? Thanks. Well, the thing is, when it comes to all art, you sort of have to separate the art from the artist. Because there's a lot of things, I think if you knew, there's a lot of movies that exist, and I think if you knew every intimate detail about some of the actors that you're watching up on the big screen, you probably wouldn't like them as much as you like the character, and that goes to everything. So I think if you separate that, you'll have a good time. Like, I look at Tom Cruise as just the last big remaining Hollywood star that does action movies. Yeah, he's a little kooky in his real life, and there's probably a reason every single woman he's been married to wanted to get divorced from him, because maybe he's a narcissistic control freak and pretentious, and he loves to watch himself run in films because he thinks it's ultimately beautiful, because that's how much of a narcissistic asshole he probably is. But keep in mind, 99.9% of Hollywood is exactly like that. So just separate that biasness and it'll be okay. That's the best advice I can give you. But I completely understand what you're saying. There's some things I see a certain actor in a certain movie and I'm like, I want to like it, but I can't. I know that guy's a piece of shit, but I can't do it. All right, let's go to the next one here. But you should watch the Mission Impossible franchise. You'll have a good time, I promise you. So thanks for the questions, man. JBP91 says, hey, Johnny, Flicky Licky, who leaves me all sticky. And yes, he did say all of that. though I'm glad he did. Who would you pick to be the DCU's new Batman and why? Who would you go old or young? Love you long time. So I've heard Batman the Brave and the Bold will definitely feature a slightly older Bruce Wayne, and you'll have Bruce Wayne's son in the mix, which could lend itself to having a younger adaptation of like Nightwing or Batman or something down the road. And I think that would be a good choice. I think having a slightly older Batman Bruce Wayne, I'm not saying like 60 years old, he's about to retire Batman. No. I'm just saying a little bit grizzled. He's a veteran. He's been around for a minute. That interpretation of Batman, which is sort of what they wanted to do with Ben Affleck's Batman. But maybe I would say you could have it around that same time period. It doesn't necessarily have to be like the Dark Knight Returns vibe, but somewhere I like it just an older version of Batman. You know, we don't need the origin story again. And I think when you eventually have all these DCU characters in the mix, I think having a slightly older Batman and a younger, naive Superman, I think that's a good dynamic. I think that just works better. And then the thing, once again, they're going to have Bruce Wayne's son, so he can be like that younger, more youthful vigilante that exists in the Batman universe. So I think that's a good balance. So I would definitely pick someone a little bit older. Who would I cast for that? I don't know. There's been so many rumors over the years. At one point, I thought Jake Gyllenhaal would be good, but I think he would be a safe choice. Josh Brolin, I think maybe like 10, 15 years ago would have been sort of a good Bruce Wayne. But as far as someone picking someone now, I could not tell you. A lot of people want the dude that played Reacher to play Bruce Wayne, but I don't know about that. I think he has the physicality, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the right casting choice, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that. But I do hope we get a Batman movie sooner than later, because that's really all I give a shit about in the DC. Like, just give me the Batman movie. And if you can get that right, okay, faith is restored. But apparently the next movie is going to be the Supergirl movie that features Lobo, played by Jason Momoa. So there's that, bitches. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Greg Harris, who says, Jelly and Randy tag team match at SummerSlam. Thoughts? Jelly lost over 200 pounds, looking like a drug out stick now. Also, Mortal Kombat 2 looks like a good time. Love your lives. Well, thanks, Greg. Yeah, Mortal Kombat does look like a fun, guilty pleasure movie. And yeah, so Jelly Roll, which I know nothing about Jelly Roll outside of some of his cameos in WWE, and he did lose some weight and he looks skinnier. Good for him. That's probably my least desirable match on the SummerSlam card. I don't mind when they have celebrity matches sometimes. I think they can be fun. But Jelly Roll, it's just, there's only so much that dude's going to be able to do, and I'm not going to believe anything. Like, he's just going to stand there and everyone's going to jump for him, and it doesn't really sell the immersion factor, but there's that. Plus, I'm not really a big fan of his music, to be honest, either. Or at least from what I've heard. Jeremy Miller says, hey, John, if you could have dinner with any celebrity, dead or alive, who would you eat? Ooh, that's a great question. I think the weirdest dinner you could ever have would be with like Michael Jackson or something. I just sit there at a table with him and talk about things. I think that would be like a bizarre, weird experience. But if I could pick any actor living, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger would be kind of cool. I just think he's like a really iconic icon when it comes to acting in 80s and 90s action movies. And you almost have to respect his hustle. You know, he came to America with very little other than amazing muscle definition, and he made a career out of that. And you gotta applaud that. So I respect that. Also, he had other businesses outside of just bodybuilding in the 70s and 80s. Also, there's some rumors that he did some gay for pay. So there's that also. But anyway, I'd probably have dinner with Arnold. What's the matter? Pushing too many pencils? Or Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage would be another one. But I'm trying to think of like an older actor or actress that I would be intrigued. I think like Harry Houdini would be kind of cool. The 1800s magician. I think something about him has always intrigued me for some odd reason. I don't know. We'll go with those. Nicolas Cage and Harry Houdini and Michael Jackson. Talk about nightmare fuel. All right. The next one comes from the Nickadug, who says, it's the Nickadug Express, who says, "Hey John, have you seen Dexter, and do you plan on watching the new sequel show, Dexter Resurrection? It's a worthy follow-up. So far, highly recommend." So let me tell you a quick story about Dexter. Now, as a dude who loves dark sociopathic humor and serial killers, you would think this is a series made for me. And I went back and watched a lot of the episodes from the first season or two, and I get it. I get why people like it. But for me, it gets a bit repetitive, and some of the characters I don't find intriguing enough to keep watching or that compelling. And I think Dexter's fine, and I like the narration, and I like the sociopathic inner thoughts and monologues that he has. I think that's all great. But when it comes to that universe that he exists in, by the time you get to the later seasons and it's like, okay, everyone's a serial killer and he's fighting everyone. It's almost like a superhero shared universe of serial killers. And I don't know. It just kind of turned me off from it. So my wife likes it probably more than me, but I just don't feel like there's enough nuance for me to get really invested in it. The other thing is we did start watching the new season of, is it Dexter? Yeah, Dexter Resurrection. I got 15 minutes into it, and it might be great, and I might be completely wrong, and that's okay. But within the first 15 minutes, after he saw 15 ghosts pop up from his past of I'm a serial killer, and I'm a serial killer, and I'm a serial killer. Remember that time you killed me? And it's just I don't give a shit about any of this. So that's where I'm at with Dexter Resurrection. Maybe one day I'll watch it, but that's my personal biasness towards Dexter. I know. And as a dude who likes American Psycho and that dark humor and that dark vibe, it's kind of weird that I don't like it more than I do. I think if Dexter was just a movie or a limited series, maybe I'd like it more, but maybe I'm just not giving it a full chance. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, okay? Mr. Doc says, "Good morning, John and chat. It's 00:52 in the AM here. So is that 12:52 military time? Okay. Damn. Well, sorry. Well, good night or good morning, however you want to look at it." Bruce Cook says Houdini was the 20th century. Well, he was early 20th century. I mean, late 1800s, early 1900s, right? Then he got punched in the gut and died. He was born in the 1800s, so we'll just go with that. All right. The next one comes from the movie guy, who says Mortal Kombat 95 is endlessly rewatchable. I have rewatched that movie probably 150 times throughout my life. There was a period when I was a bit younger and DVDs were a thing, which I miss. I remember just playing that DVD all day long. For some reason, no matter what I was doing, I would just play Mortal Kombat in the background. It was just so easy and entertaining and put me in a good mood. All right. The next one comes from Sal, who says, "Hey, John, love the shirt. Are you excited for the sequel?" Yeah, thanks for that, man. I think the trailer looks intriguing, but it doesn't do a lot for me. It definitely looks like there's more of a Nightmare on Elm Street dream sequence vibe going on, which I can appreciate. But when it comes to the Reacher, I don't know. I'm his character to me, I just wish there was more to him, and maybe the sequel is doing that. And I think they need to do that. They need to add more lore to him, because when I see him, I just sort of see Ethan Hawke, being kind of weird. I liked Black Phone, I did, but I don't think it's this groundbreaking achievement when it comes to horror films by any means. But there's a lot I liked about it, and there's a lot that they didn't explain or actually even try to explain whatsoever when it comes to the fantastical elements of how the fuck that phone works. But anyway, I am sort of looking forward to the sequel. But I will say the trailer looks intriguing, but it like didn't wow me. But I am looking forward to the movie. All right, the next one comes from Daniel Glassman, who says, watched over 10 of your streams this week. I'm hard. Well, thank you for that, man. Thank you so much. Thank you for that weird comment, but I'm going to take it. I enjoy that, so thank you. Hey, as long as you give me the views, you can do whatever you want in the privacy of your own home, okay? That's fine by me. All right. The next one comes from the movie guy, who says, drive-ins are so much fun. They need to become popular again. Apartments now stand where the drive-in I went to as a teenager was. Yeah, we have a couple around where I live, and that's one of the benefits of living in Indiana. You still have stuff like this that exists in the Midwest. And I'm telling you, man, I think there's a big market for drive-ins. I really do. Like, I was thinking about, like, what if you went on tour with a drive-in theater experience and it could pop up in, like, your local town's parking lot at Walmart, but you had to pay a commission, you had to pay an admission fee to get in, but you'd have like a themed movie night. You know, I think that'd be cool. And just going there and parking and just being out under the stars, it was really relaxing. So yeah, I think drive-ins should make a comeback. I think if the majority of people that have never been to a drive-in went to a drive-in, I think they would like want to keep going back. I really do. Plus, the other thing is, it's like you sort of get to be social but antisocial at the same time. You know, unlike an auditorium where like if someone sneezes or talks, you're going to hear them and feel the spit from their sneeze on the back of your neck. And sometimes when people sneeze in a theater, it doesn't matter how far away they are from me. I swear to you, maybe it's just because I'm really hyperbolic and weird the older I get, but I can feel the mist from their sneeze hit me. Even if it doesn't, I can feel it. Is anyone else like that? I don't know. Maybe I have a weird form of anxiety and I haven't quite dealt with it yet, but I'm just putting it out there. Let me know if you feel the same way. Pedro says, we have a nice drive-in outside of Omaha, Nebraska, between here and Fremont, 20 minutes away. That's awesome, man. Geoff Hostman says, have you seen Hey Arnold? Favorite episodes, Helga is crazy in love with Arnold with her shrine. Oh yeah, Helga's shrine in Hey Arnold, it was made out of like hair and gum. That's awesome. I wish they would bring back a new season of like Hey Arnold. Maybe like in their, I don't know, you could put it like in their high school years or college years or something. That could be kind of cool. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one, comes from Mark Hickey, who says, John, I'm coming this October. Coming where? Where are you coming, Mark? The 15th. Oh, it's coming. Okay. It's coming. I'm sorry, Mark. I got too excited for no reason. Here it goes. The 15th anniversary of your YouTube live stream career. The WrestleMania of live streams. We need to break the record for the longest live stream on this channel. Yeah, you know, by the way, I gotta get the party poppers out. I forgot to grab the party poppers. And by the way, every super chat, $10 or over gets party poppers, FYI, if you didn't know. But anyway, I have pyrotechnics on my live stream, so there's that. Yeah, you're right. So I will have been doing YouTube this October for 15 long, glorious years. It's kind of weird to think about. Makes me feel old. I'm prehistoric when it comes to the internet, and I'm okay with that. But yeah, I will definitely do something special for the 15 years on YouTube. I will definitely probably do a live stream on my main channel, The Flick Pick. So look out for that. I also want to do a new updated top 20 movies of all time video. So look out for that. But yeah, I'll definitely do some kind of cool live stream to celebrate it with you guys. So we'll do something. Don't worry about it. I'll come up with something. All right. But thank you for that. Bo Cylinder says, most underrated Disney movie. The live action Snow White. I'm kidding. I would probably say, man, there's a lot of like Disney movies people do not talk about. For me, it's The Sword in the Stone, the original animated movie from 1960 something, 66. But let's see what we got here on this lineup of movies. All right. So we got a lot of people say Treasure Planet, and I already know what the next one's going to be. It's going to be The Black Cauldron, which honestly I think is okay, but I don't love it. But Treasure Planet, I never loved either. Atlantis, I have tried to watch Atlantis many times, and maybe it's because it came out in the early 2000s, and I was just like a little too old for animated Disney movies at that time. I never got into it, but I never loved it. The Dinosaur, I did not like that either. I thought is Emperor's New Groove a Disney movie? I always thought this was Pixar. Or Emperor's New Groove, is this Disney? Okay. Let's see. I hate the way IMDb is laid out these days. Like, look how much shit you have to scroll through just to see what you want. Anyway, you know what? I don't even care what it is. I don't know. What do you guys think is a great underrated Disney movie? Oh, a Goofy movie's great. Why, Maxie? And you had Powerhouse. Oh, yeah. Sword in the Stone is the shit. Oh, yeah, it's good stuff. If you guys have never seen the original Sword in the Stone, let's see. Sword in Stone Disney animated. I think it's 1966 or something. 1963, yeah. Definitely check this out. It is great. This is a great movie. You have Merlin the Wizard. All kinds of fun stuff happen. At one point, this little boy turns into a squirrel who falls in love with another squirrel. And they kiss, which is kind of weird when you think about it. But anyway, it kind of works in the movie. So, great time. Definitely recommend it. Emperor's New Groove is so funny. Yeah, I've seen it like once or twice. I do like it. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, that's a great name. Tangled is pretty underrated. I'm sad they're not remaking it anymore. I love Tangled. I loved the 2010 Tangled movie. I think that was a great time. I really do. And I thought it had a good tone, had some catchy music, and I liked the way it looked, and I liked Mandy Moore doing the voice of Tangled. But yeah, so the live action of that did get canceled hot off the heels of Snow White sucking so bad. But the live action adaptation, I think, was going to be sort of an Indian themed, if I'm not mistaken, of Tangled, which I don't know. It just feels like we're switching things for the sake of switching it. So I'm not upset that version got canceled, but I think there is room for a good live action Tangled movie. All right, the next one comes from Immortum, who says, "Hey John, how much would you enjoy seeing Randy Orton as Bane? By the way, Lord of War is a masterpiece, and I'm glad you champion it." I don't know if his acting ability would be that great. I'd like to see a good actor also play Bane. I think when Bautista had 150 pounds more of muscle mass on his frame, I think he would have made a good Bautista. But now I don't know. I don't know if it would work quite as well anymore. But anyway, thanks for the question, man. And can I get my party poppers? Give me a second. Let me get my party poppers out. Can we just set this here for now? I like having my Galactus on right here. Actually, I'm going to put him back on the shelf. All right. So thanks for the question, Immortum. And that does give you a party popper. 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah. All right. Thanks for that, man. And Lord of War is a phenomenal movie. If you've never seen Lord of War, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It has Jared Leto in it before Jared Leto get too Jared Leto-y, and but it's great. It's about an arms dealer. It has Nicolas Cage in the movie. What more do I need to say? All right. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, "We're finally getting Noob Saibot in cinema. Everything looked perfect, and then Jada Smith cosplayed Jade." Yeah, the Jade, but who cares? Jade is sort of an irrelevant character, even in the games to me, so it's fine. Just be happy just be glad that we have Carl Urban as Johnny Cage. I think that is great. And I like that he's playing like this B action movie star. I like shit like that. So I'm looking forward to that aspect of it. And at one point in the trailer, he's like, "You don't have any powers?" He's like, "No." But maybe he'll get some powers. Or maybe he'll just do the splits and punch somebody in the nuts. And that's sufficient to me. Mark Hickey says, "Also, John, are my deltoids small?" No, they are not. No, they are not. Killian Maddox. No, they are not. Everyone should go watch Magazine Dreams. Bo Cylinder says, "First movie you ever saw in the cinema?" I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm sure it was probably a drive-in movie. And I don't know. Couldn't tell you. No clue. I'm trying to even think, like, I don't know. I don't know. I'd be lying to you. I can remember a lot of movies I saw when I was like 5. From 5 years and older, I can remember a lot of movies that I saw in the cinema. Like from 1992 on, I can remember just about every movie I saw in the movie theater, which is kind of weird. I'm a savant in that sense. But before that, can't recall shit. So there's that. Sal says, and by the way, that's a great question for you guys. What is the first movie you remember watching in the movie theater? Let me know that down below. Okay, Sal says, "What are your thoughts on the new Tron Ares trailer? I'm so excited and even thankful that we are getting another Tron film." Yeah, who would have thought? You know, it only took 15 years for a sequel, but we're finally getting another Tron movie. And I have a feeling that this movie is... I feel like it might do well overseas, but I'm curious to see how the box office does here. Because the first Tron movie wasn't like mind-blowing box office numbers. It did okay, I remember, but it wasn't all that mind-blowing. And now you have a sequel 15 years later that sort of everyone forgot about. And like the main actor that they're throwing into the movie is Jared Leto, who's hot off the heels of Morbius, which was box office poison. So I don't feel like the movie's going to do that great, but that doesn't mean I'm not excited to watch it. And I like that you have Nine Inch Nails doing the soundtrack to the movie. I think that's kind of cool. But yeah, even in the trailers, I'm like, what? I don't even know what the fuck's I don't even know what's happening. What? Okay, there's light cycles, there's an explosion. What is the story? I have no clue. But does it really matter? All right. Let's go to the next one here. The next one comes from Gorilla Beach, who says, "Hey, Flicky Picky, when you were a tiny kid, did you ever watch a horror movie with your friends where you were actually afraid to watch but acting tough?" Oh, probably all the time, man. Growing up, I remember we would have like sleepovers in my grandparents' basement. And there'd probably be a couple of my buddies over there. And keep in mind, I was, 1994, 5, 6. So I was probably like 9, 10 years old. And we would watch movies like Nightmare on Elm Street in my grandparents' basement. And the way that their stairs went up the stairs, it was opened. So like when you're walking up the stairs, you could like reach through it. And behind that was a boiler room. So you're watching Nightmare on Elm Street. You're in the basement. There's a boiler room right over there. There's all kinds of weird sounds and shit emanating from the darkness, that void in the corner. And I remember that was some of the most terrifying moments of my young life. And I always remember when we would watch movies, I would sit in the chair furthest away from the boiler room area because I figured if Freddy Krueger was a real thing, a real entity that would come to life and put on razor sharp gloves and a Christmas sweater and become this reality, this tormentor that murders children and haunts our nightmares, that my friend would be the cannon farter and get mutilated and murdered first before Freddy could get to me, giving me time to run around his mutated corpse and up the stairs to safety. Because once I got to the top of the stairs and shut the door, then I was safe. Freddy can't come into the sunlight. There's no way. It's not possible. He can't do it. Or at least on my stupid childhood brain. So yes, I remember trying to act tough, but also getting the right seat away from that dark void in the corner of the basement. So thank you for unlocking that memory. Let's go to the next one before I have a panic attack. And the next one comes from Bastiel, who says, "Hey John, which films by Robert Eggers, Ty West, or Joe Begos do you like?" I don't even, what has Joe Begos? I don't know who Joe Begos is off the top of my head. I'm sorry, man. Joe Begos? Director? I don't know what this is. Did you mean Joe Borges? Or who the fuck is Joe Begos? Okay, I don't know. Robert Eggers. The thing with a lot of Robert Eggers movies, I like watching them once, but I don't go back to rewatch them a lot. So like, I liked The Northman. I thought it was fine. The Lighthouse I really liked, but I've had very little urge to rewatch it. I liked Nosferatu as like a straight up adaptation remake, but I was hoping that they would do a little something different with it. So if I had to pick one, and then The Witch, I like the atmosphere of The Witch. I just don't know if it's worth the payoff that you get. That's my biggest complaint with it. It's like, oh, it's called The Witch. Oh, look, there's a witch. The movie's over. Like, it kind of reminded me of the Blair Witch Project. Not a lot happens, and as soon as something does, nothing else happens, and the movie's over. But I liked the atmosphere. So if I had to pick one, probably, I don't know, like The Lighthouse. I go with The Lighthouse. Yeah, The Witch was really well made. Yeah, absolutely. Skylar Wheelock says, "My parents took me to see Tarzan in 1999 and also Phantom Menace." I do remember seeing Phantom Menace in the theaters in 1999 as well with my stepdad. And that was my first Star Wars movie that I had ever seen in theaters. So there's that. But I do vividly remember around the time period when Phantom Menace came out that, and this is nothing new, you know, movies have always done this, but I just vividly remember like, they had Pepsi cans. They had all the different Phantom Menace characters on it. And I remember for some reason, my family we were saving those Pepsi cans with different Phantom Menace characters because we thought there was going to be a collector's market for this film because Star Wars was so huge that everything Star Wars would be collectible. And little did we know this shit would be worth nothing. But I remember everything had like a Phantom Menace theme. Like KFC had something to do with Phantom Menace, and it was everywhere. And then I remember watching the movie, and I kind of liked it as a kid. I have fond memories of it. Maybe it's a guilty pleasure, but I knew Jar Jar Binks was a stupid fucking character when I watched him in 1999. I thought he was stupid, but I liked him. And little Anakin, to me, little Anakin in that movie was Jamie from Jingle All the Way. He was Arnold's son in Jingle All the Way. That's how I remembered him, and that's how I grew up with him. But I thought Darth Maul was awesome in Phantom Menace, and I still do. And Duel of the Fates by John Williams is still probably one of the most epic scores in any movie ever. So it had some highlights, but I do remember seeing that. Tony says, Tron Ares is Disney's last chance to make something truly good and to not tarnish another one of their IPs. I think even if it's like fine, I don't feel like it's going to have this like impact on the zeitgeist of cinema. I feel like it's going to be one of those movies that comes out and like a week later, no one's going to talk about it. And that's kind of scary. I know for a movie that costs like $100-something million. But who knows? All right. The movie guy says, and by the way, the movie guy is, are you the number one, the top fan currently? Okay. So YouTube introduced this new feature where it gives the top fans that give the most comments and interaction, because I love your interaction. Stimulate that algorithm. I love it. But yeah, you guys get little like purple crowns beside your name. That's kind of cool. But thanks, movie guy. When it comes to witches, watch Hansel and Gretel and The Witches. I have seen The Witches. I like it. GF Hostman says, "Did you see Lord of the Rings in the theaters?" I think I saw Return of the King in theaters, but I did not watch the first two Lord of the Rings. And hear me out for a second. I'm a late bloomer when it comes to Lord of the Rings. I don't think I watched all of the movies until like after somewhere 2000. It was after high school when I sat down and watched all of the Lord of the Rings movies. I know, but that was still like 2007 or something. But I remember seeing Return of the King in theaters because a couple of my friends wanted to go see it. And I'll sum it up with this. I was lost. I had no clue what the hell was going on in that movie. But I was like, oh, it's kind of cool and fantastical. I dig it, you know. And I never went back and watched the first two until like years later. So I know. So no, I did not see the majority of the Lord of the Rings movies in theaters, but I did watch the Hobbit movies in the theaters. And I recently just tried to go back and rewatch the Hobbit movies. And I got probably an hour into the Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. And I was like, I just don't know if I can finish this. I just don't know if I can. It feels so artificial. And for me, and I've said this once, I'll say it again. For me, the biggest churn in cinema, if you want like from start to finish, like you watch the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, all right? And that's kind of like what movies should look like and feel like and what they can be. And then you watch the Hobbit trilogy, and that's like what modern day cinema thought it should become. And you have this blaring contrast of like something that makes you feel something and looks cinematic and filmic, and then you have something that's so artificial and digital and bloated and just you don't really care about it. And to me, that's like the best example of like what not to do with movies these days. Like keep it more like that, not so much like this. Anyway, let's go to the next one here. The next one comes from Blasphemy John. I know. Danny IB says, same. Yeah, you know, there's just some movies you skip over, you know, in your life because you have preconceived notions or what have you. And I'll be honest, like I've always loved movies, and I will say the older I get, the more I like movies. I do. I've always loved them, but the older I get, the more I almost need them to exist in society. Because the more I reflect on society and life, and the older I get with the more responsibilities and stress and dealing with society, and the more I need that escapism more than ever. You know what I mean? So movies, they're sort of like a lifeline to me half the time. Murley says, me to Johnny, I never saw Lord of the Rings. What are you doing? Just go watch the first Lord of the Rings movie, okay? Go watch Fellowship. Let me look this up. Hang on. Hang on. Lord of Rings. Okay, I was going to say 2000. Okay, go watch Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring from 2001, okay? Just watch the movie. Make a night out of it. You know, it's going to be a long ride. It's a long journey, slightly unexpected. But if you don't like Fellowship of the Rings, then don't continue. But I promise you will. It just take me to the Shire. It's happy. It's warm. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm going to make a confession. This is a movie confession just for you guys. And here it goes. I don't want this to get weird. But sometimes, if I could push a magical button and go to any fantasy land and become anything I wanted to, I would become a little hobbit who lives in the Shire. That's what I would become. It's safe. It's secure. I would have giant feet. And it looks so happy. And that's where I want to live. That's the kind of life I want to live. Take me there now. Thank you. Okay, let's go to the next one. The next one comes from... the next one comes from the Movie Guy. Hey, Movie Guy. Thanks for another Super Chat question. Yay! All right, and the question is... I rewatched the DC Snyderverse this week leading up to the Justice League Snyder Cut, which I hadn't seen yet. Other than Suicide Squad, I think these movies are hated on way too much. Batman v Superman is actually a good film in my opinion. There's a lot to unload here, and we only have so much time. But before I retort, may I take a drink of my tasty beverage? Okay. That is a tasty beverage. All right, so when it comes to... Listen, I don't want to get into the Snyder debate. I think Man of Steel is a good movie. I like it. I think it's one of Zack Snyder's better movies he's ever made. I also think it's probably the best DCEU movie from that universe, in my opinion, that I like to rewatch over and over again. And when they first announced Batman v Superman, I cannot express how excited I was for that. That was everything I had ever wanted to see. And I remember that first teaser trailer that they had where they showed the bat signal in the sky and Bruce and Batman flips the switch and there's sparks that shoot out of it and it's raining and you see Superman up in the sky. That was the teaser that we got almost a year ahead of Batman v Superman. And I thought that looked fucking awesome. And I was like, okay, I'm here for it. And then I watched the movie. And listen, it's entertaining. There's a lot of fun that takes place in that film. But it's a narrative mess that has some very, very questionable creative choices, especially Jesse Eisenberg playing Lex Luthor. I hated all of that shit. Also, a multitude of subplots behind it, and the motivating factor of why Batman and Superman are fighting made very little sense to me, and I think it just went off the rails in all the wrong places. But there is some fun throughout that film. You know, I liked the Batman-Superman fight. I thought that was fun. I liked a lot of the scenes with Ben Affleck as Batman. I think that's what kind of carried that movie was Ben Affleck's Batman. I just didn't necessarily like everything that they did with him. And plus, they have a chase sequence in the movie with Batman and the Batmobile, and I hated that. It just felt like he was driving like a CGI Batmobile through the streets of Gotham, and it just didn't have enough weight to it. And it got a little too Zack Snyder-y, you know? So, and then the third act of the movie, and I already knew what the movie was going to be based on the first trailer that really showed that Doomsday was going to be in the film, which it should never have shown that, but it's too much too soon, and it should not have been in this movie, because Batman v Superman, it feels like enough. If you want to put Doomsday in there, then make a part 2 of that. You know, expand upon it. You know, build up to it. Don't just tack this shit into your movie. It's like, I just blew my load with Batman fighting Superman, and now you want Doomsday, one of the biggest antagonists of Superman's journey or legacy, is just going to be shit into the movie in the third act. Okay, whatever. So yeah, there's that. So I think it was just too much too soon. It's sort of a mess. It's a mess with some cool ideas, but it's still a mess. All right, those are my thoughts on that movie, if I haven't talked about it enough over the last 10 years. All right, the next one comes from... Oh, gosh, okay. But thanks for the question, Movie Guy. Thank you so much, man. All right, the next one comes from... Is it kind of wild that Stranger Things took so long to make, just 34 episodes? That's the 80s nostalgia wave isn't even as big anymore. I think the 80s nostalgia wave is still present, and people enjoy it. I know I do. I just think any movie that takes place in the 80s or 90s, I'm probably going to enjoy more because it isn't going to have a focus on social media or smartphones. I like, get rid of that. That does nothing for movies. I hate when social media is even an aspect of a movie. I hate it. I hate it. But the reason that Stranger Things took so long is because you have to keep in mind, they're not just shooting like Big Bang Theory episodes with multi-camera setups and laugh tracks. They're shooting movies. Each one of these episodes of Stranger Things is an hour plus long. So they're literally shooting cinematic films with every episode. So that's why, man. They didn't just make 8 episodes. They made 8 movies, more or less. And hey, I don't mind that they took their time to do it. I'm just glad that we're getting it. I'd rather them take their time and do it right and make it look awesome and epic as they possibly can, rather than rush out something for the sake of rushing it out, you know? And we've gotten things like that. Do you remember season 8 of Game of Thrones? I know I do. That's what happens when you rush the creative process. It turns into dog shit, and it's a waste of time and money, and it's underwhelming to everyone who watched it. And it kind of taints everything that came before it. So that's why I don't mind that Stranger Things took so long. But the biggest question is, will it be worth it? And I'm hoping it is. But if you kill Steve, I'm going to riot. All right, let's go to the next one here. Skylar Wheelock says, is it just me or is Paula Kent talking about a random burrito place for a full minute in Superman the most parent shit ever? It kind of is, man. Where he's like, yeah, we went to a burrito place. It was pretty good. Same burritos. And then that's it. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. I agree with it. Also, I think the point was in that scene, and I did hyper focus on the sequences of Superman's parents the second time watching it at the drive-in last night. I was really like trying to pay a lot of attention to some of the things like my brain skimmed over when I first watched the movie. And, they definitely are getting the point across that Clark Kent, Paul Kent, his dad might be on the spectrum to some degree and a little slow, but a super nice, heartfelt, loving guy that says, like, every once in a while he'll say, he'll almost feel like Forrest Gump, but then he'll have something to say that has a moral message to it. But then again, that's sort of most dad vibes anyway. But anyway, that's sort of the vibe I was getting this time around. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, his dad sort of gave me Forrest Gump vibes. And that's cool. I liked it. I like it. I do. But I also like Kevin Costner's portrayal as Pa Kent in Man of Steel as well. Both very different, but... All right, the next one comes from the movie guy who says, I hope Mortal Kombat is good, but I'm still not convinced, to be honest. I would love to be proven wrong about this film. Nothing would excite me more than a new great MK4 film. Well, with all that said, get over here! There you go. You know what? Here's the thing about the new Mortal Kombat movie. It might be a mess. It might be kind of shitty, but at least it looks self-aware. And the fact that they have Carl Urban in this movie. Now, hear me out for a second. I've been saying this forever, but if you take an actor who has charisma, and Johnny Cage's character lends itself perfectly to asshole charisma, and I'm drawn to characters like this. Can you tell? I like assholes who are slightly charismatic. That's how I live my life. But I think that Carl Urban being in this role instantly elevates this film. Because no matter what's happening around him, at least you have that charisma as the core of the movie. And that's what the first Mortal Kombat movie from 2021 needed. It had some generic guy playing a generic character that no one gave a shit about, so it didn't matter who he punched or beat up or what fatalities happened. But when you have this, also keep in mind, Johnny Cage is not like a supernatural combatant in the Mortal Kombat trilogy. Yeah, I mean, later he can do he has like stuff he can do, but this version doesn't have that. So it grounds him more human-like, which makes him more relatable. So the fact that they're focusing on that character with Carl Urban that alone, I think, will instantly make it a better movie and at least watchable and enjoyable. And it might be like a guilty pleasure, but also I've heard rumors that they're coming out with a new Dredd sequel as well. And supposedly Taika Waititi, did I have to say his name all weird like that? With an emphasis on the T? Taika Waititi is directing it. I don't know how I feel about that. Like when it comes to Taika Waititi directing something like Thor Ragnarok, I thought that was a good mix. But then I think he needs checks and balances, much like James Gunn needs checks and balances. If he gets full creative control, it's a little self-indulgent and childlike humor. But he has good ideas. So I don't know. We'll see. Wouldn't be my first choice, but. All right, let's go to the next one here. Vino El Bambino says, about to watch F1, just watched to pop into the stream to show some love. Well, thanks, man. Hey, I just watched F1 last night. Have a good time. Have a great time. That movie, my wife said she likes F1 more than Superman. And I was like, okay, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you for that. I respect that opinion quite a bit, and I almost might agree with it. But when it comes to F1, it's not a perfect movie, and I love it. I think it's the ultimate dad movie of the summer. I much prefer something like Top Gun Maverick to F1, but man, F1 with Brad Pitt, he's just the coolest dude ever. Yeah, we can do that. Haha, okay. Yeah, that's Brad Pitt throughout the entire movie. And the thing about Brad Pitt in this film, and my wife and I came to this conclusion watching it last night, his character in F1 is basically just a fuckboy who never grew up. He's a 50-year-old fuckboy who never grew up. He's just, the only thing he cares about is redeeming his race car career and going fast. He has romance, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't want a relationship. He just wants to drive race cars. But can you blame him? But it's a damn good time. And the race sequences in F1, just top notch. But I will say some of the subplots going into the third act of F1 feel a little bit forced, like I don't really care about it. For example, like the rookie driver, his mom is mad at Brad Pitt at one point where she has no right to be mad at him. And it's like, what is this melodrama forced into this movie? Like, I don't give a shit if his mommy's mad at Brad Pitt. Why are we focusing on this? This is something that would be in an after-school special. And then you have the the corporate espionage aspect of it, which lasts for like 5 minutes in the movie. And I thought that felt a little forced because the movie felt like it needed some more drama. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of complaints with F1. It does everything it says it will, and it goes fast. And those scenes, man, just Joseph Kosinski, who directed Top Gun Maverick and F1, he is sort of like my go-to action director right now, and I'd like to see him do more. I forget, he's doing something else big next. I forget what it is, though. If someone knows, remind me in the chat. He's doing something else coming up that's kind of cool. All right, the next one comes from the movie guy, once again, who says, did you hear about the ghost hunter who just died while touring the real Annabelle, Annabelle doll? Yes, I did hear about that. I don't know any of the details. I've only read the headlines, but, well, I mean, that just gives more accreditation to that creepy haunted doll, doesn't it? But that sucks, man. How did he die? I don't know. Moo Raid Man says, I haven't seen F1. Not sure I will. I think you should go see it. All right. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, The Dark Knight Rises made $1.084 billion worldwide. It's still Nolan's highest grossing movie. Do you think The Odyssey will break that record? You know, I think there's a lot of potential for the Odyssey to break that record. I really do. I really do. And I think it will break that record because Nolan has such a great filmography that it only helps. And the thing about Nolan movies is he's one of those directors where no matter what movie he puts out, it's an event. And the fact that every IMAX screening for a week is already sold out for the Odyssey, which is still shooting, keep in mind, and doesn't come out for another year, is sold out. I checked my local IMAX theater, and by local IMAX theater, I mean not the IMAX. I'm talking about legit IMAX cinemas where they use 70 millimeter film stock, and you have this huge screen that's 5 stories tall. That IMAX theater in Indianapolis it's sold out completely. Every seat is sold out. There's not like one seat in the middle. No. They're all sold out for a week. Because I was going to buy some tickets. But if that's any indication, I think this movie could potentially make $1 billion. And plus, when it comes to the Odyssey, Homer's famous poem, I think you have this fan base. Keep in mind, this is an ancient poem. So I think it'll do well. I do. I think people are sort of craving movies like this again. And I hope we get a resurgence in the swords and sandals genre of movies. And I think people just want something that feels real and thought and calculated and thought out, like CGI slop. It'll always make money at the box office, but it doesn't make you feel anything. And a Nolan movie, it'll make you feel something. Sometimes it might make you feel slightly confused and think, what the fuck is happening in this movie? And I'm talking to you, Tenant. Or maybe it'll make you think to yourself, I can't really hear what anyone's saying because the audio mix is just terrible. Why would you do this? But anyway, beyond that, his movies do genuinely make you feel something. So to answer your question in a very long-winded answer, I think it'll make $1 billion. What do you guys think? Do you think the Odyssey will crack $1 billion? Let me know. What's the best rock movie? The Rundown. I'll go with The Rundown. But I'm hoping The Smashing Machine will be his best movie because it feels like a real movie. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Claudio Rogajon. How's it going? Hey, John. I just wanted to say hi because I wasn't here last week. You were not here and I did miss you and everyone missed you. But let's continue. But didn't Superman kind of feel like an extended filler episode of Superman the Animated Series? Yeah, it did. Because when you were watching the movie, not a lot actually happens. Like, if you really break down what happens in Superman, he's getting his ass kicked. You're already in the middle of a storyline with Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is a bad guy. There's a pocket dimension. Superman questions who he is. That lasts for like 25 minutes. And then you have the climax of the movie. And then bada bing, bada boom, you're done. Like, that's Superman. That's literally like kind of what happens in the movie. So not a lot really does happen. So I agree with what you're completely saying. It does feel very episodic in a way. But maybe they just assumed the majority of people who would love the movie have very short attention spans. And I blame TikTok for that. But yeah, you're right. It does. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, "You're the expert. Why is it that energy drinks are always in cans? Why can't they ever come in a bottle?" I think it's because it's cheaper, and I could be wrong with that. I could be completely wrong about that. I would prefer if they came in bottles because I love consuming microplastics. But I agree. But also keep in mind, microplastics aside, I do think sodas taste better in bottles than they do cans. I can always taste the metal residue. And plus, I don't like opening that can and drinking from a sharp edge. And then, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think cans are just cheaper to produce. I think that's why. I think that's the simple answer to that question. But what do I know? Maybe we should look that up. Let's look it up. Why are energy drinks always in a can, not bottle? Okay, here's what we had from Twitter here, or I'm sorry, Google, that you can't see on the screen, so why am I showing you that? Energy drinks are predominantly sold in cans for several reasons, including their portability, ability to maintain freshness, and suitability for active lifestyles. Yeah, but how does a sharp metal can that you can't close help a lifestyle where if it flips over sideways, especially if you're an athlete or you want energy during an activity, where it would spill out? Doesn't having a bottle in that, wouldn't that just make it better and keep it fresher? So that sounds like a blatant lie to me, and whoever wrote that should be punished for their lies. Yeah, here's the reason. Cost and efficiency. Aluminum cans can often more cost-effective to produce and transport than bottles. So there you go. It's all about the money. That's what I thought. Okay. All right. Whatever marketing mumbo-jumbo they try to lie about. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Avocado Balls Johnson. How's it going? Hey, will you feel if Superman starts a decade-long trend of lighthearted, goofy superhero movies like an overcorrection for the grim, gritty realism trend in the late 2000s, early 2010s? Yeah, it definitely feels like Superman was an overcorrection, but then again, I think if anything can go a little more light and fluffy and cartoonish, I think it's Superman. I think he can get away with that, but I'm really hoping the rest of the DC universe isn't copying this exact same tone. I don't think that would be the right choice, but it does feel like an overcorrection to some degree. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, love your wholesome unboxing videos you used to do. Yeah, man, it was fun. I would like to do more unboxing videos. It's just, I'd have to get a P.O. box, and you have to pay a monthly fee for it, and then sit down and unbox all that. And it's just, I don't know. I'd like to do it, but maybe one day down the road. I just don't need more stuff. I feel like I have enough stuff. I don't need it. I'd like to downsize on the stuff. And people would send me awesome shit all the time, and a lot of it I still have, but a lot of it, like, I didn't have anywhere to put it. So I felt bad about it. I'm like, I don't know where to put this. I have nowhere to put this huge poster, and it's cool. Where am I supposed to put this? So that was one of the downsides of doing it. Skylar Wheelock says, The Dark Knight released 17 years ago today. I guess I'm an old man now. I remembered I saw it in theaters on opening day when I was 13. I bet the feeling is mutual. Oh, I vividly remember the day I saw The Dark Knight. And let's talk about it for one moment, shall we? Okay, let's go. All right, so the year was 2008. It was the summer, July. It was a hot, sultry night, and I vividly remember this. On my way to go see The Dark Knight, I was driving through the town I lived during high school. Small, stupid town. I hate it. But anyway, per capita, it always felt like they had too many police officers. And rather than patrol the neighborhoods and protect the community, they'd like to pull people over because they were bored and unsatisfied with their lives. So they'd pull you over for whatever reason. And I remember it was me and two of my friends, and we were driving to go see the movie. I got pulled over going like 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. And the officer came up to my window, and he's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to see a Batman movie. That's why I'm driving so fast. I'm super excited. I was always a cocky, arrogant asshole, but only to people who didn't serve true justice. And this guy did not serve true justice. Okay? And he's like, okay, you guys doing drugs? You do anything crazy? I'm like, no, we're just going to go see a movie. And he's like, so should I call the K9 unit to search your car? I'm like, first and foremost, what is your probable cause? But if you really want to, you can, but I'm still not giving you permission to search my car. So do with that as you will. And he looked at me for about 2 minutes straight without saying anything. And then eventually he came back, wrote me a ticket, and we drove away. But then we got to the movie theater. And this is at a time when midnight showings of movies, sneak previews, were actually at midnight. Nowadays, you can go see a movie at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. And sometimes that's super convenient and awesome. But back when I was growing up, we had to go through the trenches to see movies early. You didn't just get to leisurely go see a movie with 10 people in the theater because there's 19 showings of it at 7 o'clock on Thursday night. No. You pull up to the theater an hour and a half before the movie starts, and it's packed. There's 2,000 people waiting in the lobby in lines, okay? It's hot, it's sticky, and this is before reclining seats were such a thing. So I remember pulling up to the theater, it was packed, and we get into the theater, every seat is full, so we're kind of like, it's a little crowded, there's not a lot of elbow room. And then on the screen that we were watching the movie, there was like a dark spot right in the center of the screen. And I'm sort of anal retentive. Maybe you can tell. I don't know if you can't. But I am. And my friend leaned over to me, and he always does shit like this to me. He leaned over and said, he's like, that dark spot's really going to ruin the movie for you, isn't it? You see Batman up there in the big screen and you just see a dark spot right in the middle of his face. That's going to suck, isn't it? And I was like, fuck you. But yeah, sure enough, for like the first 30 minutes of the movie, I kept looking at this dark spot right in the middle of the screen. And thank God the movie predominantly takes place at night, so you don't really notice it. But I remember that dark spot even to this day, 17 years later. And it still haunts my dreams. I'll be honest with you guys. When I go to see a new movie, if I walk into the auditorium and there's somebody in there I know that's going to be problematic, like a group of stupid kids or teenage girls on their phones, and it's like a horror movie, I will go to the next showing of the movie. I will wait 20 minutes and go to the next screening of the movie. Or if I walk into an auditorium and the screen looks like shitty and the projection isn't going to be good, I just wait and see the movie later, unless I absolutely have to. And I did that with Transformers 2. I remember that. Somebody brought like 10 of their adolescent children to that movie. And I just didn't want to hear like 5-year-olds running around the auditorium when I watched Transformers 2. Even though the movie's atrocious and it completely sucks. And you see giant Transformers testicles. I still didn't want that experience ruined by children. When I'm looking at robot testicles, I do not want to hear children in my auditorium. And I stand by that even to this day. Okay? All right. What was the question? I don't remember. All right, let's go to the next one here. I'm sorry. All right. But yeah, it was a good time. I liked the movie, The Dark Knight, quite a bit. Jake Tiemann says, Superman's James Gunn making me appreciate Man of Steel more. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. If I had to pick one, I like Man of Steel more too. I do. I like it more. I think Superman's a fine movie to watch. It's like I could watch it late at night when I'm trying to go to bed, and it's fine. I don't hate it. And I think there's a lot they can do with this version of Superman. I do. I really do. But I like Man of Steel more. Oh, I don't think Transformers 2 even sucks in the most entertaining way. I just think it sucks. The movie guy says, John is a year older than me, so I can relate to him. Well, thank you for that, movie guy. Thank you so much. Ooh, the movie guy is my number one fan now. What do you guys think about that? Are you jealous? Thanks, movie guy. All right, let's go to the next one here. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, Madeline Klein from I Know What You Did Last Summer is better in Outer Banks. Yeah, that might be true. It's not that I think the actors in the new I Know What You Did Last Summer movie, I think they could work in other movies, but in this, something about them felt so artificial to the movie that they were in. They just didn't feel like they belonged in this movie. And everyone just looked way too old. But then again, everyone's like giving comedic one-liners. So there's not like any nuance to their performances. What are you waiting for? And yes, that line is in the movie again. It's also in the trailer. But in this new movie, it feels so forced. So forced. All right, the next one comes from Murph, who says, "What are your honest thoughts on Huel? I try to put on muscle, but I struggle to eat enough." Yeah, so I did a sponsorship for Huel on my Jurassic Park review. And basically what Huel is, it's a protein drink that's also like a meal replacement. And I had a 12 pack of it, and I drank all that shit within like 3 days of getting them. I thought it was delicious. And also, I'm sort of one of those guys who I forget to eat if I get busy. Like, I'll skip lunch or breakfast if I just get busy doing something. So I've always sort of, when I was working out especially, I struggled to like eat enough because I forget to do it. So yeah, man, I would recommend Huel. It's kind of a meal replacement, but if you're struggling to put on weight, definitely like add one of these into your daily routine. They taste great, and they have like a billion different flavors that you can pick from. I think the chocolate one is by far the best, but yeah, I'd recommend it. And make sure you use my link on my Jurassic Park review to save, I think, 15% off or 20% off. Just use that link. You get some money off. So yeah, I'd recommend it. I'm still going through the protein powder that they sent as well. I'll tell you what I do with the protein powder. We make chocolate pudding like every other night. We do the sugar-free chocolate pudding. My wife makes delicious chocolate pudding. Take that how you will. But we make it, and she puts whipped cream on it, and we put a couple scoops of the chocolate Huel protein in there, because now it's slightly nutritious. It's not just a dessert. It's a nutritious meal now if you add the protein, and that's how we justify it. But it's delicious. All right, Skylar Wheelock says, Odyssey tickets buying a year early. I just don't think it's a good idea to treat movies like concerts. If this becomes a regular thing, people are going to buy and flip tickets like crazy. The movie should be for everyone, not freaks and opportunists. Yeah, but on the flip side of that, it keeps movies relevant. It keeps the excitement alive, and I think that's a great indication. And keep in mind, the only auditoriums being sold out are the IMAX theaters. And even if they do get sold out, the movie's going to play for 2 months, man. So if that first week's booked up, you can buy tickets the next week. Or just watch it in a normal cinema. So I get what you're saying, but ultimately I think it's good for the movie industry. The fact that there's this much hype for a movie a year away, that is a good thing when it comes to films. And especially when it comes to directors like Nolan, a guy who likes practical effects. He likes doing something a little bit different from the Hollywood overproduced norms. And I think that's beautiful. And I'm glad that he has this fan base that will support his movies, because guess what? That means we keep getting more movies like that. And if we get more movies like that, other studios are going to go like, hey, maybe we should make real movies that have practical effects and not everyone standing around in front of a green screen making fart jokes. And that, to me, keeps cinema alive and relevant. So ultimately, I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. By the way, real quick, there's my Galactus back there. I wanted to mention to you, I guess this doesn't really matter, but I will be seeing Fantastic Four: First Steps at an early press screening in Chicago this Monday. I'm really looking forward to it. But I'll tell you this, to get press access to that movie was such a hassle. So typically I do get press invites to like normal movies, but because this is in the Chicago area and it's a Disney movie, I had to get special approval, I guess, to make sure I don't talk about sadomasochists or something on YouTube, to go to the early special screening of Fantastic Four on Monday, or else I was going to have to wait until Wednesday to see the movie, and the movie comes out on Thursday. But I'm getting to a point where it's just not quite worth driving 3 hours each way for a 6-hour round trip to see a movie early, unless it's a huge movie and it's significantly early. So anyway, I will be seeing Fantastic Four on Monday, so look out for a quick reaction video on that, and then a review coming the next day. I'm excited to see the movie. I really am. I like the way it looks. It looks like a real movie. I'm curious how well it does at the box office. Okay, the next one comes from Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, hey, that's the username. I'm gonna read it. Did you watch? And it could very well be. Did you watch the Hannibal TV show that a fan sent you? Dude, I probably have it back there in my pile of movies. What was that, 5-6 years ago? I think I did start watching it, and I did not get into it. I don't know if what is it, Michael? Is it Michael Madsen? Am I saying that right? Or Mikkel Madsen? What is his name? Mikkel Madsen, the James Bond villain. That's not it. Michael Madsen. Mads Mikkelsen. Oh my God. Okay. Yes, Mads Mikkelsen as Hannibal Lecter for me, it doesn't work. I'm sorry. I'm too, Anthony Hopkins' portrayal as Hannibal Lecter is too ingrained into my brain. But it wasn't only that. It just, when you have these series that continue on and on, some of these stories I feel like work better in condensed versions of themselves. I find they get a bit repetitive, and it gets to the point where like the excitement, it's like we've done this 5 times already. By the 9th episode, I don't care anymore. But I did give it a try. I watched the first couple episodes of the show. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. It's kind of like Dexter. You think it would be everything I want it to be, but it's just not quite there. All right, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, The Dark Knight was released 17 years ago today. Did I already answer this? I already answered this. Okay. Let's go to the next one up here. Sorry, the chat sometimes gets a little glitchy. Okay, here we go. Okay. Azim the Dream says, Hey Johnny, what does your gym and diet routine look like? Is it similar to Patrick Bateman's? Also, any good tips on buying first house or renting an apartment? I never said thank you, and you'll never have to. Don't ask me my gym or diet routine these days because it is all but non-existent. Now, you're talking to a guy who went to a drive-in theater last night and ate probably 10 packs of Gushers, an entire pack of Twizzlers, 5 bags of popcorn. I drank like 4 sodas. Keep in mind, they were all like sugar-free. But yeah, and I go to the gym now probably like once or twice a week. That's my workout routine. So do not follow my advice at all. But that's what it's looking like nowadays. I'm trying to get back on track. I am. So no, it does not look like Patrick Bateman's workout routine. I don't think if I had to do 1,000 crunches in one day, my core would explode, and I think my abdomen would bleed out of my rectum area. Any good tips on buying a house or renting an apartment? It all costs too much money nowadays. Good luck. I don't know what kind of advice I could give you. Just make sure it's something that you want to live in. That's the best advice I can give you. If you can afford it, go for it, man. Gorilla Beach says, if YouTube would cancel you and you could only keep 3 of your old videos online, which 3 would it be as a legacy of yours? Oh, I probably have to keep like 1 review, 1 flick trip, and some other video I did. So I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe the video on how to watch movies. I think that video is kind of a good nostalgic video. I'm sure there's a flick trip video in there that's really good. I don't know which one I would pick, personally speaking, but I'm sure there's like a big flick trip video I've done. And maybe one of my live streams. I think you get sort of who I really am throughout my live streams. I think this is a good representation of who I am as a person. I can't hide behind editing with the live streams, which I kind of like. I don't know. You tell me which videos I should keep alive forever. I'm biased. I couldn't pick. The next one comes from Stuckman's Hot Bottom, who says, why the F is Arnold doing mediocre Netflix TV shows? Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird where you see these celebrities that literally have enough money to never have to lift another pinky for the rest of their lives. And they do like these like mediocre movies. Is it to stay relevant? Is it to stay working? Did they sign some kind of contractual agreement where they're obligated to star in mediocre things for the rest of their life because they sold their soul to the devil? I don't know. But I've always wondered that. It's like, you have $50 million. What made you want to star in this? Or maybe they just like working. It keeps them relevant. I think most actors are addicted to relevancy. It's like an addiction. Sal says, what are your thoughts on James Gunn directing a Billie Eilish movie concert in 3D? Yes, it's a real thing. You can look it up. James Gunn, or did I say James Gunn? I'm sorry, James Cameron directing a Billie Eilish movie in 3D. Huh. Well, you know, the thing is, James Cameron, I keep saying James Gunn. James Cameron has done things like this, though. He did a documentary about the Titanic. And I think he's probably just I think directing this 3D documentary, it probably gives him some room to play around with like different 3D technology that he probably wants to utilize down the road. And this is sort of like an outlet to do that. That could be what it is. And it's sort of one of those throwaway projects that you can do in between the Avatar movies. So I don't know. Hey, but if for nothing else, I will probably never watch a Billie Eilish, whatever her name is, Billie Eilish concert. Eilish. But if I had to, I would much rather watch the James Cameron directed one than not, right? From the director of Titanic and Terminator 2 Judgment Day comes the Billie Eilish concert in 3D. I want a bad guy. Azim the Dream says, also Johnny, have you added any new posters and collectibles to your Flick Cave or kept any old ones? I saw Jurassic Park and a T2 poster. Any cool stuff? Yeah, would you guys like a sneak peek of an upcoming sponsorship I'm working on? Okay, I'll be right back. So I've worked with a company called, ooh, these are cold on my legs, but I like it. I've worked with a company called Displate for a multitude of years, and I am doing a sponsored video for them maybe next week. But anyway, they sent me some cool like metal posters, and I have a lot of these already, but I needed some to actually hang up in my office because the real estate on my walls is very limited, and I don't have a lot of room for full-size movie posters, but I do have room for posters like this. So these are pretty sweet. So I ordered this one. It's still in the plastic, so if it looks super shiny. I got this one. I felt like I needed a Jurassic Park poster because I actually don't have one. And also, speaking of the Dark Knight, now I've had a lot of different Dark Knight posters throughout my life, and I still have them like in my, I put them in the attic because I have nowhere to put them right now, but I need this in my office somewhere, but it's small and condensed, so now I can hang it up. Warriors come out to play. I also got the Warriors poster here. I always liked this poster. I liked the wide version of it a little bit more, the rectangle version of it. But yeah, this is pretty cool as well. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I'm going to hang this one up in my office or do something else with it, but. And then probably what I deemed to be the most famous movie poster of all time, Jaws, which I've talked about multiple times. And last, but certainly not least, do you like Huey Lewis and the News? I had to get an American Psycho poster. And I liked this one. I kind of like where he's chilling out on the couch right there. It kind of like I have the same sofa back there that I like to chill out on every once in a while. So I also had to get this. So yeah. Was that a fulfilling answer to your question? All right. Also, so yeah, I'm going to put those in my Flick Cave. You saw, the T2, but I actually have a signed Terminator 2 Judgment Day poster over there. It's signed by everyone except for Arnold, which that's like the one guy, but I got like the T1000 signature. I have, Edward Furlong signature on there. But yeah, I don't have a lot of posters in the Flick Cave. I have a lot of cool stuff like popcorn buckets and stuff, but I don't have a lot of posters. So I'm going to add those. 007 says, AMC selling cardboard standees now. Please buy the kid Anakin one. Oh, man. Could you imagine an Anakin Skywalker standee? Oh, God. Just throw darts at it all day. The movie guy says, Batman Returns should be number 1 on that list. Which list? The posters or what? We talked about Taika Waititi doing the new Judge Dredd movie earlier. I said it could be interesting as long as he's not left to his own devices, where he gets a little too self-indulgent like he did with Thor: Love and Thunder. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from... I'm going to try to answer some of these questions a little quicker. I've been taking way too long. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, hey, John, how does your wife react to Dutch ovens? Oh, she hates them, but I'm so good at them. The movie guy says, have you ever seen Maverick with Mel Gibson? It's a great Western. I think I have seen Maverick with Mel Gibson. There's like, the cover has him like with cards on it or something. I feel like I've seen that once, but I don't remember anything about it. So that's one of those Western movies I probably wouldn't mind going back and checking out again. I've been trying to get my wife to watch The Patriot for like the last year, and we just have never found a time and a place to do it. I was like, how about 4th of July? But then we ended up watching The Sandlot instead, which, hey, not a bad second choice or a bad movie to watch by any means. The Great Bambino. JBP91 says, have you seen Interstate 60? Makers of Back to the Future a hell of a cast and story and really great movie. It needs more attention. Check it out. Interstate 60? What is this? Have you guys seen Interstate 60? Wait. This does look familiar. I don't know. It looks like a straight to DVD movie from 2005 though, but it's got a 7.5. It came out in 2002. It's from Bob Gale. It's got Christopher Lloyd in it. Oh, Michael J. Fox is in the movie too. Wow, they did bring back like everybody. Maybe I should check this out. Is Interstate 60 good? I don't think I've ever watched it. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I will look into this. I promise you that. I'm intrigued. All right, let's go to the next one here. Martin Valuick says, did you watch the Johnny Cage Uncaged teaser? It was so kick-ass, it made my nips hard. Definitely the best teaser I've seen in the past 5 years. I think we watched the Red Band trailer. It was rated R. That's the one I watched earlier during the live stream. So I think I did, yeah. I think that's the one we watched. It was definitely rated R, so I think that was it. Yeah, I liked it. I made my nips hard too, man. The movie guy says, I had to have seen other films before, but it's the first movie I remember watching in the theater is The Matrix. Yeah, you know what's funny? I did not watch The Matrix in the theater. I think the first time I watched it was on like DVD or VHS. 99. Yeah, it was definitely VHS. I did not see it in theaters. But keep in mind, it came out when I was in 5th grade. So, but that's awesome. Not a bad movie to remember seeing. The movie guy also says Fellowship is the greatest movie ever made, in my opinion. I think it's my personal favorite of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I really do. I think it's the most like fulfilling, fun movie, and they're starting out on their journey. And when it comes to movies like that, I always enjoy the first 2 acts of movies more than the 3rd act. Something about the conclusion, I'm like, I don't want it. I want to go on this journey for a perpetual amount of time. I don't sum it up. I want to keep the adventure alive, because for me, and I feel like I've known this since I was a young, stupid kid. It's never about the destination. The destination is never going to be fulfilling and exactly what you want. Everything, especially life and movies, it's about the journey. Go on the journey. That's the fun part. So whenever a movie concludes or starts wrapping up, I'm like, I don't want this. Like, even when I rewatch a lot of movies that I've seen 100 times, I usually watch like the first 2/3 of it, and I always sort of like stop watching it during the final act of the movie, because it keeps the movie alive for me. Like, if the credits don't roll, it never ended. Maybe that's a weird psychological thing with me. I don't know. But if you feel the same way, feel free to let me know down below. All right, Immortum says, what is your ranking of the main Mortal Kombat ninjas from least favorite to most favorite? Personally, Smoke, Emac or Ermac, Scorpion, and Rain are my favorites. And by the way, I'm going to give you a little fatality right here. All right. If I was a Mortal Kombat character, I would shoot party poppers at people. And then Sub-Zero would freeze me to death and decapitate my head with an uppercut. But that's okay. Okay, so do the cyborgs also count? So I'm going to count the cyborgs. So obviously, I think Sub-Zero was always the coolest one. And then Scorpion was sort of like right beside him. And those are always the 2 most iconic ones. And then when you got the addition of the other characters, I always thought Reptile was kind of cool, but not one of my favorites. And I didn't actually like using him in the games. But when it comes to Mortal Kombat Ultimate or Mortal Kombat 3, where they introduced Cyrex and Sector, where you have the cyborgs, the yellow one and the red one, we call them ketchup and mustard. But if you were, I think was it Cyrex? Cyrex had this move where he would pick up his opponent and put them in like a tombstone pile driver position, and you could just be an asshole and just push this button over and over again to where people could not get out of this predicament, and you could just button mash the same move over and over again and win every time. So that's why I think that was Sector. If you don't know who Sector is, I'll show you. No, it was Cyrex. Was it Cyrex? I think it was Cyrex is who I'm talking about. Anyway, so this is Cyrex right here. Ew, that version looks kind of stupid. Okay, that also looks like Bumblebee. What the fuck are these? What are these versions of Cyrex? These look awful. This is the one I know. This is the one I like. That to me is Cyrex. Anyway, those would be some of my favorites. I was never really into Ermac or Smoke or Nob Saibot or Noob Sabat, as we used to call him. So those are the ones I always used to go to. All right, the next one comes from Sebastian says, why do studios nowadays have famous stars doing voiceovers for animated movies? Why not just choose good voice actors? It's not like the kids are going to care, but the adults do. And whenever you can attach a recognizable name to the top of that movie poster, it gives it some more accreditation. But I don't think this is anything new. I mean, since like the 80s, they've had famous voice actors, especially since the 90s. We've had very famous actors doing the voices of characters. You know, going back to like Like The Lion King or Aladdin or even Toy Story, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. I don't think this is anything new, but the question you have to ask yourself is, like, could you imagine anyone else doing the voice of the genie in Aladdin? I don't know if I can. I could. Could you imagine anyone else besides James Earl Jones doing the voice of Mufasa in The Lion King? Everything the light touches is... I forgot how the rest of it goes. Anyway, could you imagine anyone else doing the voices? And especially Woody. I could not imagine any other voice besides Tom Hanks saying, "There's a snake in my boots." I don't know about you. I don't mind it. I was always curious, though, so originally, I think, and talking about this, originally Shrek was going to be voiced by Chris Farley before he passed away. And I don't know how I would have felt about Chris Farley doing the voice of Shrek. I think that would have been interesting, but I think Mike Myers doing it added a little something more to the movie. Maybe that's just me, but let me know what you guys think down below. And I love me some Chris Farley. All right, Avery A says, "Hey John, how would you react if you were hit with 4 Tomahawk missiles?" Oh man, from Sector right out of his chest, probably not good. Sal says, "I like the Hobbit movies. I've tried to watch Lord of the Rings, but I simply can't finish it. I always get stuck on the first film. I own the Blu-ray Extended Edition trilogy. Any thoughts?" I'm going to give you some advice, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to agree with this, and maybe they won't, and maybe this is blasphemy when talking about Lord of the Rings, but if you're having trouble getting through the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the original trilogy, maybe try watching the theatrical versions of the movies, which I think I personally prefer more, because they get less self-indulgent and they don't go off the rails about these subplots that ultimately I don't find that interesting and deviate from the stories that I do care about. And that's Sam and Frodo and Gollum. So maybe watch the theatrical cuts, and I think those movies will go much quicker for you. Because the last time I watched the extended cut of Return of the King, I'm sorry, that shit was too fucking long, okay? And I stand by that. So maybe that's your problem, and I get it. We've all been there. But hey, maybe this will help you with your next viewing of the trilogy. And thanks for the question. Would you like me to pop this up in the air? Or would you like me... I'll stand back there and pop it for you. How about that? Here we go. You ready for it? Get ready. I'm going to get down on my one knee for this. All right. That's some 3D for you, James Cameron. I want James Cameron to direct one of my live streams in 3D. I think that would be really cool. If we had like a $100 million budget, think about the possibilities. I would be an avatar right now, which I could probably also do with a Snapchat filter. So what's the big deal? Dustin Rich says, "What about Nick Nolte as Woody?" Well, Buzz, it was a real nice thing what you did for... Andy. Hey, Buzz, there was a real nice thing what you did for Andy. Did I mention there's a snake in my butthole? Hey, you know what? If I can't have Tom Hanks doing the voice of Woody, I will take Nick Nolte or Nicolas Cage. "Oh gosh, what's that in your boot? A snake or something?" Yeah, okay, I could be okay with either one of those. Dr. Sick Evil says, "New Dread movie finally, but it will be directed by Taika Waititi." Sad face emoji. Yeah, we talked about that a few times. Hey, but listen. At least we're getting a sequel to Dread. We're getting the sequel we've been waiting for since like 2011, 12, forever. So, or was it 2010? Anyway, we've only been waiting almost 15 years, but at least we're getting it from a somewhat competent director who can do visuals sometimes outside of everything he did with Thor: Love and Thunder. At least we're getting a new one. So let's be happy with that. It could be worse. It could be worse. All right. Darth Maul's Balls says, is there anything Fast 11 can do to win you over? Well, so when it comes to Fast 11, I did see that announcement video from Vin Diesel, who I call him Vin Baked Potato. And he said they're going to go back to basics. They're going to go back to street racing. And that's cool. And I think maybe there's some cool stuff they could do with that because, and I'm going to spew out some ideas that I just came up with instantly off the top of my head right now. What if, hear me out for a second. What if they made a Fast and Furious movie, but you had someone like Joseph Kosinski, director who did Top Gun Maverick and did F1, and you take those practical set pieces and action stunts, and the way that he filmed things in F1, it put you in the cockpit of the driver's seat. It made you feel like you were in the race. Now imagine a street racing movie where they film it like that, where it's not all over the top and stupid looking and digital explosions and it's just blah. Imagine if they actually filmed it like intensity, with a certain level of intensity and practical stunts. That could be kind of cool. And I think if you keep it on that street level, that would be neat. But also, Vin Diesel also mentioned that they are going to try to bring back Paul Walker's character, Brian. And I get that his family's probably cool with this and they gave them their blessing. And ultimately, it's up to them. You know, that's their right to say what they will and don't approve of. And that's cool. But I'm curious what he meant by that. And if they're going to try to like redigitize the character of Brian O'Connor to come back into the Fast and Furious trilogy or franchise, to me, that will be really distracting. And I think that kind of makes it feel cheap. I'm not saying that you couldn't have a few scenes, maybe somehow work that into there or maybe some flashbacks of things that we didn't see that happened 20 years ago between the two. But I don't know. I think like referencing the character is kind of cool. Or maybe having a shot of like his brother from the back doing something in a few scenes. But if they try to actually make him a character in the movie throughout the entire runtime, I don't know how that's going to work out. I really don't. But no, with all that said, yeah, there's probably nothing they can do to make me give a shit about that franchise anymore. What about you guys? Do you care about the Fast and Furious franchise? Or is it dead? Vin Diesel, living life a quarter pounder at a time. Hey, man, but in all fairness, movie guy, Cockpete, I'm sorry, I did misspeak after talking for 2.5 hours. Forgive me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I don't know. Darth Maul's Balls also says, are you excited for Bond or Dune 3 from Denis Villeneuve? I'm probably more excited for Bond than I am Dune 3. I know. Hear me out for a second. I like the Dune movies. I think the last Dune film, I liked the sequel more than the first one that we got. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff in there. I love just visually looking at it. I think it's immersive and it's fun and it's epic and it's a cool time. For me, those movies don't necessarily have a lot of rewatchability, but I like the lore and I like the universe for the most part. Though I don't understand everything, I won't pretend like I do. I understand a lot of it. But I think James Bond to me is just fundamentally more fascinating and relatable and intriguing. And I understand the lore of that, and I grew up with James Bond a bit more. So I'm a little more excited for the James Bond movie. And I think they got the right director for the job. I really do. I can't think of anyone else who might be better for the role than him. So that makes me happy. Yeah. Now the biggest question is, who's going to play the 007 agent, James Bond? Chris Alamu says, we'll visit Fort Wayne soon. Again, how do we meet? Man, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm sorry, Chris. I don't know, man. I don't know. If there was like a screening of a movie, I'd say, hey, man, I'll be at the screening. Hang out with me in the lobby, and we'll chat. Outside of that, I do not know. I do not know how to set up the logistics of this, Chris. I mean, we're kind of hanging out now, more or less. I'll keep it real with you. I have one of my best friends lives 20 minutes away from me, and I see him once every 3 weeks. Okay. That's where I'm at in life. So what are you coming to Fort Wayne for, though, by the way? The movie guy back again says, I hear you about Batman v Superman, but you can't deny that Wonder Woman's entrance is awesome. Oh, yeah, it looked cool. The music was awesome, but it doesn't matter what you interject into a movie because it didn't earn it. It's like she's here to help fight whatever, and I don't know. It was cool to see the Trinity, but it blew its load way too quick. Sebastian says, should actors be more open about using steroids? Well, no. They're never going to be. Why would they? It just puts a dark cloud over whatever they're working on. Because then it's going to give like this acceptance to substance abuse, which is never going to be a good thing. And even if these actors were medically prescribed whatever they're taking, it's still going to put a dark cloud over it and undermine them. But I'll just put it this way. A lot of these actors who go from weighing 190 pounds to 250 pounds of pure muscle in a matter of 3 months, yeah, sometimes that's impossible to do. And that's because it is. But there's a lot of peptides that exist as well that, I think they should mention. But thanks for the question. Patrice Chaswick says, I have a nice supercar collection, but I am now going to start a movie car collection. First one is going to be Back to the Future DeLorean replica. What else should I put on the list? Enjoy the videos, mate. Well, Patrice Chaswick, are you a multi-millionaire? Who are you? Invite me over to your house. I want to hang out in your pool and drive around with you in the DeLorean. You got to buy the Batmobile or the Tumbler, either one. That'll be fine. And then get the Ecto 1. So thanks for the question. I would love a DeLorean. My dream is to make a Flick Trip video limited series where I do like a 5-part series, and the vehicle of choice where I travel the country talking about movies is a DeLorean, but a decked out DeLorean that looks literally like a replica from Back to the Future that actually functions on real plutonium. Not that Mr. Fusion recycled shit. No. I'm talking about the plutonium-driven Back to the Future DeLorean. That's what I want. All right, let's go to the next one here. And thanks for the question, man. And good luck with the car collection. Or is this like a car collection of like miniature replicas that you're putting on your shelf? That seems more plausible, but let me know. DJ Run says, hi, Johnny boy. How are you? How is your wife doing being a teacher during summer? Oh, she loves it. She needs every second of that vacation. Because you have no idea how hectic a classroom full of 5-year-olds can be. They're just running around trying to stab each other in the eyes with scissors. It's chaotic and scary in classrooms nowadays. It really is. And kids just do not have the right temperament anymore. Everyone's like addicted to their screens or screaming. It's scary. I've heard some very horrific horror stories. But anyway, is she driving you crazy like my wife is just being home all day? Typically not. But she does go back to work in a couple weeks, so I do get some more free time. But then again, life right now is so busy, man, that I don't think I'll have much free time during the days. But yeah, she quite enjoys her summers. I will say that. Okay, the next one comes from Sebastian, who says, have you ever considered getting Javier Bardem's haircut from No Country for Old Men, maybe for the upcoming Halloween? That would be a great haircut. I would much prefer Guy Gardner's haircut from the new Superman movie. That's the haircut I want. Yeah, I want this shit right here. This is what I want. I want that. I want that do right there. That Simple Jack haircut from Tropic Thunder. That's what I'm going for. Look at that. That's something you probably get at Great Clips. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Bruce Cook, who says, put an Aston Martin DB5 on your list. Ooh, that's a good car. I have an Aston Martin right here, man. Hey, man, me and you both have a car collection right here of replicas. Now, if yours is real, that makes me feel really poor, but here's my car collection. I have an Aston Martin in mine right here. Pretty sweet, I know. Sometimes I drive that bad boy around on the weekends. No big deal. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Bruce Cook says, hi, John. I dropped off. What? Oh, hi, John. I dropped off here an hour and a half ago, and you're still going. Oh, I'm still going, man. We have a handful of questions left, so we got plenty of time. We're going to keep hanging out. And by the way, if you guys ever want to stop and go get a snack, please do. Come back. Enjoy it. I assure you, I'm much more entertaining if you're consuming something salty. Let's go to the next question. Darth Maulsball says, did you know John Campea is a fan of your channel? I've never heard that. Where did that come from? What is the source? For some odd reason, I don't feel like he would like me. He would think I'm too sophomoric and too much of a douchey little asshole. But then again, I don't know. I did remember that John Campea did come on here once because he was making a video and he was giving everyone live streaming at the time like $100. So at one point, John Campea did give me $100 during a live stream, but I don't even know if he knew who I was, to be honest. So, but that was cool, man. Thanks for the $100. That was sweet. But I've never heard that once before. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, is Jurassic Park 3 when they had to dig the phone out of the dino shit? Yes, it was. I will never forget that ringtone either. If that was you in that position, how would you have reacted? Oh, I would dig deep into that dino shit. I would jump in it and hide. Because I'll tell you, the last place another predatory dinosaur is probably going to find you is in a big pile of T-Rex shit or Spinosaurus shit or whatever it was. That'd be probably the safest place to hide. Or maybe cover yourself in it for the scent. Just putting it out there. You do what it takes to survive from dinosaurs. I know I would. The next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, who says, don't you think Tom Hardy's Bane is underrated, even behind the mask? He brings so much menace, charisma, and his weirdly poetic terror. Oh, I loved Tom Hardy's interpretation of Bane. I thought it was great. I get that it's very different, and I understand why some people don't love it. But, oh, you think the darkness is your ally. I didn't see the light until I was a young man, and by then it was blinding. I loved it, man. I thought the voice was awesome. He was like Darth Vader of the Batman universe in that film, and I loved every second of it. I don't care if the audio mix was on top of everything and it sounded bizarre and weird. I loved it. And I always had sort of like I was always a huge fan of Tom Hardy, and the fact that when Tom Hardy started working out in the movie Warrior and The Dark Knight, that was at a time when I was starting to work out too. And I remember just being so motivated by Tom Hardy's traps. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to go for that look, you know. I like to think I sort of achieved it at some point. But yeah, man, I always liked Tom Hardy's interpretation of Bane. Now, with what the movie did with him in the third act, I thought was sort of underwhelming to say the least. And also the scene where he's fighting Batman in the daylight and there's those pillars on the Gotham courthouse steps and he starts swinging, but he still punches the pillar twice even though Batman just moved like 5 seconds ago. A lot of people call that stupid, but I kind of like it. And then he gets shot with a missile and dies. All right, let's go to the next one here. Some cinematic, the film buff says, do you like movies a lot? I hate them. I hate movies. So that's why I've dedicated the last 15 years of my life to talking about them extensively on the internet. I hate them. No, I kind of like them every once in a while. Bruce Cook says, is the Jurassic Park books that compies ate dinosaur faces that one of the reasons they brought them back to life? I don't know what you just said there, Bruce Cook. I don't know what you just said. But thank you for that. The movie guy says, John does blackface every other month, so it makes sense. John does blackface every... Ooh, John Campea does blackface? I mean, Jeremy Johns did blackface. I mean, everyone's done blackface at some point, haven't they? Robert Downey Jr. did it. I can safely say I've never done blackface. I can safely say that. Yeah, I've never done it. Never done it. But... I'm kidding. There's no buts. All right, let's go to the next one. Cold spaghetti. Where's your question at, man? I don't see it if you asked it somewhere. But I'm getting to the rest of the questions, so give me a second. The next one comes from... there we go. This one... Okay, the next one comes from Skylar Wheelock, once again, who says, don't you think Tom Hardy's... we already answered that already. Okay, let's go to this one. Did I answer... I answered this one already. Here we go. A new question. I found it. Skylar Wheelock says, is Nightcrawler trying to warn us about the ambition and success can come at a cost of morality? Ambition and success can come at the cost of yeah, I think that's definitely the moral of the movie, more or less. But also, I like to think the moral of Nightcrawler isn't just that. I think it is also, if you put your mind to something, you can simply achieve it. But the thing I like about Nightcrawler and Louis Bloom, the bad guy wins. He did whatever it took to become victorious in every situation he was in. He didn't have the upper hand. He just had the nuance and the will to do it. And everything that he achieves in that movie, he did it himself. So you almost have to respect that. He did the research, he did the due diligence, and he put in the effort. Now, did he have to cut some corners and do some seedy stuff along the way? Absolutely. But that is how you gain success. Sometimes in life, you don't just get lucky and the most talent wins. No, sometimes you have to slit someone else's throat to become first place. But ultimately, if you can become first place and that's the goal, then who's to say that's wrong? So sometimes I like to think the ends justify the means. And I like characters like that. But yeah, but I agree with what you're saying as well. Because the name of the company is Video Production News, a professional news gathering service. And that is how it should be read, and that is how it should be said. All right, let's go to the next one here. Skylar Wheelock says, did you know Brad Pitt and Eric Bana didn't use stunt doubles for their duel in Troy and even made a bet of $50 for light hits, $100 for hard hits? Pitt owed Bana $750 and Bana didn't owe him anything. Isn't that wild? I feel like I heard that somewhere, but that is awesome. I'm trying to think back. Yeah, maybe they didn't use stunt doubles. Maybe they didn't. Yeah, but hey, here's the thing. If I always recommend this movie to people who have not seen it, and if you're looking forward to something like Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, go watch Brad Pitt's movie, Troy. Sorry, I forgot the name. Troy, which is an epic sword and sandals movie. I think you will be pleasantly surprised by that. Now, do you necessarily need to watch the director's cut? I like it. It's very long. It's a Wolfgang Peterson movie, but it is epic beyond proportions. And the fight sequence that we're talking about right now between Eric Bana and Achilles himself, Brad Pitt, it's phenomenal. It's brutal, it's intense, and it feels so grounded and realistic. Ugh, Troy, man. That's probably... If I ever do another top 20 movies of all time, and I think I'm going to, I almost would put that in there. I think I would. I find the movie so highly rewatchable. All right, the next one comes from DJ Run, who says, the thing I remember about The Dark Knight releasing is when Heath Ledger died, people didn't care about him or his family. They were more concerned about whether the movie was going to be released. How sad, this coming from a huge Dark Knight fan too. I do remember a little bit of that talk, but I do remember a lot of people crying and having heartfelt messages about Heath Ledger back in 2008. And that entire thing just added a whole nother darker element to The Dark Knight when it came out, which I know this sounds a bit morbid to say, but I think that intensified the hype for the movie and the discussion around it. It added this darker element to the movie, and I think it really contributed to the box office of the film. I really do. I know that's not cool. I know typically you don't want to say someone's death contributed to a higher box office, but it did. But I do think a lot of people had a lot of heartfelt messages, but there's also, soulless surface level people that exist that don't give a shit and just want to see the movie. So, but I do remember that. Dustin Rich says, could you threaten my landlord for me? Just do that with an anonymous message or something, man. It'll work out. Yeah, I think Troy is such an underrated movie. People do not appreciate it as much as they should. You sack of wine. All right, let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Claudio Rogajan once again, who says, me and my brother have both agreed on this, but I wish Superman built up Lex Luthor over the course of a couple of movies as a big threat running things from behind the scenes, rather than the straight out making him known as a villain for the whole world. Do you agree? Yeah, I do agree that Lex Luthor is so blatantly known as a villain that whenever something goes wrong, how do you not just immediately blame him? It's there's a guy blowing up things in Metropolis. That's probably Lex Luthor. Maybe we can just look into his skyscraper right there where he's looking out the window constantly, yelling out fight coordination codes to Ultraman. Sorry, but that's stupid. So there he is. He's doing bad stuff up there. We can see him right here. Everyone see him? He's right in that building over there. He's looking down with this whole crew of people as people fight in the streets of Metropolis. It's no one's connecting these two dots? No, just me? Okay. Yeah, I agree. That's why I said the movie's sort of like cinematic baby food. Jake Tammin says, and thanks for the question, Jake. John, thoughts on my Batman movie ranking? The Dark Knight, Batman Begins, Mask of Phantasm, Dark Knight Rises, The Batman, Batman 89, Batman Returns, and Batman v Superman, and Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin at number 10. Oh, you laid a lot on me right there. So number 1's The Dark Knight, number 10's Batman and Robin. I think we have our priorities in the right place. I do. Would you have at number 2, Batman Begins? I agree with that. Mask of the Phantasm. I hate putting animated movies in rankings. I feel like you got to do all live action or nothing. Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, I think that's fair. For me, the more I watch The Dark Knight Rises and the more I watch The Batman, I could almost interchange those in like a placement to some degree. I think both have great ideas and some do things I don't love. But more or less, I think that's you got it summed up pretty good there. Yeah. I think I like Batman Returns more than most people, though. I will just put that out there. I have always had this weird love of Batman Returns and appreciate how dark and morbid it is. Like, go watch the new Superman movie, right? And then go watch Batman Returns from 1992. And like, that was a movie made for children. Okay, you want some dark, bleak shit? How about the Penguin, who is an accused child predator, mind you, and he wants to murder children and kidnap him, and that's his plot, and what he wants to do with the kidnapped children of Gotham City from the rich and the famous is he wants to submerge them in his dark abyss. Okay, pretty dark, morbid shit. But beyond all of that, the sexual innuendos throughout that film. You have Catwoman, played by Michelle Pfeiffer, just oozing sex appeal. At one point, she puts a live bird in her mouth. And then you have the Penguin with his French flipper trick, and then he bites off a guy's nose. Yeah. like, man, it was ahead of its time. But that's the kind of stuff I grew up watching. So anyway, Jake, thanks for the question. You do get a party popper. 3, 2, 1. Ooh, that had some oomph behind it. All right, let's go to the next one. The party popper is actually dangling from my lights right there now. It's kind of cool. All right, let's go to the next one here. Andy Kumar says, John, I'm an Indian man. Do you like India? Sure. A lot of people, very populated country. Yeah, India could be cool, I guess. I've never been, but yes. I think it has a kind of a cool culture and heritage. Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from, are you in India right now watching? Because that would be a lot cooler if you were. The movie guy back again says, doesn't matter what New Line Cinema movie I'm watching, as soon as the logo pops up on the screen, my brain instantly plays Mortal Kombat 95 song. Oh, absolutely. That's all I think about when I think of New Line Cinema. That or the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. That's typically the two things my brain goes to. Because that's the best things they've ever made. Sal says, I've watched the theatrical cut of the first Lord of the Rings, and it's the same problem, laugh aloud. Maybe the Lord of the Rings is not for me, and the Hobbit is, I don't know. Yeah, man, that's really intriguing. That's intriguing why you like the Hobbit more than Lord of the Rings. Why do you think that is? I need you to reflect on that. Do some introspective thinking about that, and then come back to me with what you find. DJ Run says, sorry if you've already talked about this. What do you think about the married CEO that got caught on the Jumbotron holding his HR lady at the like Coldplay concert or something like that, right? Isn't it weird? It's just like the weirdness that happens in life that goes viral. You just couldn't make up stuff like this. And also, beyond all of that, I don't care about either one of those people, so I'd fuck them. I don't care. Basically, they just like shit on their families. But beyond all of that, that is not the way to react if you don't want people to notice that you're doing something wrong. Oh no! Like, talk about trying not to be suspicious. If they would have just reacted and went, oh yeah, and waved at the camera and gave each other a high five, they could have played that off in a million different directions. But what they did, it made it a bit blatantly obvious. So that's on them. But who cares about them? All right, let's go to the next one. The movie guy, back again, says, Fast and Furious ended after Fast 6. They were back to back. They were back at the original house. They were happy, free, and had all the money. No need to make more. Yeah, I agree with you. That was the logical conclusion to the franchise and the story. They're back at the house that it all started at, eating dinner in the backyard. But money Money's why they made more. Because why just stop it there? No. You got to milk this franchise. We got to go into space, baby. But I agree. All right. Darth Maul's Balls has a question here. Thoughts on Bay coming back to Transformers? Yeah, I get where they're coming from because they want to try to recapture the box office success of when Michael Bay and the Transformers franchise was sort of relevant in the first like 3 installments or so. And all those movies, it was like printing money, right? So I think by adding his name back to it, they think they're going to recapture that same kind of atmospheric magic at the box office. And maybe they will, because Michael Bay's name, good or bad, the movie, it does add a little something to the film when it comes to like the hype level or the discussion around it. It's a very recognizable name, maybe not for all the right reasons, but I'm a dude who loves me some Michael Bay movies. Now, I don't really like anything he's done for the last 20 years, but I do like me some Michael Bay movies like The Rock from 1996, Bad Boys, Armageddon, I think was a guilty pleasure movie of mine. And he's made a few others I don't mind, but if they're going to make a big, dumb, bombastic Transformers movie and the screenplay already sucks, then I guess it doesn't matter if they attach Michael Bay to it. At least it'll be so over the top and stupid that now when I talk about it, I can have more fun talking about it or looking at it. But I wish they would have gotten someone else to direct a Transformers movie and went a different direction that wasn't just poop jokes made by robots and explosions for the sake of having explosions. I don't know what else Michael Bay can add to this franchise that he hasn't already added or destroyed. And ultimately, why would you do this when the franchise started going downhill and had more criticisms in the later film? It's an interesting choice, isn't it? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But then again, I would have to care about the Transformers franchise to really care if Michael Bay was coming back or not. But I don't know. I don't really care, to be honest with you. I feel like he's done more of a disservice to that franchise than anything else. Though the first movie was good. I like the first movie. It was what it should have been. Cold Spaghetti, thanks for the super chat. No question though, but thanks for the super chat. Cold Spaghetti back again says, thoughts on Jacob's Ladder movie. I've seen Jacob's Ladder once, and it's got Tim Robbins, right? Come on. Yeah, I've seen it once. I watched this probably like in 2010, maybe. Tim Robbins. And it's one of those movies, I know it's like a psychological horror film. I don't remember a lot about it. And it's one of those movies that people talk about all the time. And I watched it for the sake of watching it, but I don't remember it. I know. I'm sorry. I should revisit it again. But I've only heard great things. But I did watch it. I remember watching it in like 2008 or 9 or something for the first time. But anyway, I should go back and revisit it. Take it or leave it says, hey, John, thoughts on the King Tide 2004? Thanks. Or 2024. The King Tide 2024. What is this? Is this like a Bollywood movie? It says 2023 on here. What is this? Okay. The King Tide. I'll show you guys what I'm talking. The King Tide is a child with mysterious powers washes ashore their idyllic island village. The once peaceful community devolves into civil war, torn over the belief that the child is the next savior. Ooh, that's interesting. It's got a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. I have not heard of this. I've never heard anyone talk about this movie. 6.5 out of 10. Doesn't sound like the audience loves it too much. Let's see what it has on Rotten Tomatoes here. 95% and 82%. Okay. Yeah, have you guys seen The King Tide? Let me know. Is it good? I'll add it to the list if it's good. I've never heard of it. Let's see. Dustin Rich says there were McDonald's Happy Meal toys for Batman Returns. Think about that. Oh yeah, I had them. I had that shit. I had the little Batmobile where you push the button and it shoots out. I had that. Okay, let's go to the next. Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Asher56, who says, I missed the late 90s blockbuster. It's not the same. You know, I had a dream a couple years ago about going into a 1990s video store, and it was so real to me. I feel like there was a glitch in the simulation that we live in because it was so vivid. I was driving home and I saw a video store on the side of the road, and I don't think it was like Blockbuster, but it was something that looked like Blockbuster, right? And I remember pulling into the parking lot, walking into the video store, and I was like, oh my God, this is like, what is a video store doing here? It was so visceral and real feeling. And so what I wanted to do was make a video about it. So I whipped out my iPhone and I was walking around recording some of the stuff. And the guy who worked there came up to me and he's like, what is that? What do you like? What is that, a video camera? What is that? I'm like, yeah, it's an iPhone, man. He's like, I don't know what that is. Like, what? And he was really enamored by the technology of my iPhone. And we got to talking, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of crazy that video stores, like, you still have one. It's like nostalgic and retro. He's like, yeah, video stores, like, yeah, it's a thing. It's been a thing for a while. And I walked out of the video store and I looked back and I realized to myself that I had just been in a time capsule from 1994 and I didn't know it. And then I woke up from the dream. So if that's not some Inception shit, I don't know what is. So I like to think that I had time traveled back to 1995 and I went into a Blockbuster. Anyway, let's go to the next question. It's getting weird. But I miss him too, quite a bit. All right, let's go to the next one here. Skylar Wheelock says, what film character is way too similar to your wife? Oh, man, I don't know. That's a great question. What film character is similar to my wife? Sometimes I tell her she reminds me of like a live action, like cartoon character sometimes, just her mannerisms, and I mean that in all the good ways. I don't know. That's a great question. I'd have to do some soul searching on that one. I don't know. I don't know that answer off the top of my head. I'll think about it though, and I'll get back to you. That's a good question though. It'd have to be someone nurturing and funny. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman. I'm just kidding. Here's my French flipper trick. All right. The next one comes from Night King 01, who says, I've been rewatching Batman the Animated Series, and I have to say, children's entertainment has fallen off over the years. When you compare the show to today's, it's so ahead of its time and mature. I agree. Yes, I feel like a majority of children's films and things relating to children's entertainment, even if you can have like a dark, brooding vibe in it, like Batman the Animated Series did, everything feels so watered down and dumbed down for children, which thus I think when you start treating children like, I don't know, when you start talking to them like their brains are chewed up bubblegum or they can't comprehend anything, or give them some emotionally fueled themes that elevate their cognitive thought process, yeah, you sort of start dumbing down the society that you live in, and everything's dumber and dumber. That way it's just easier to consume, and there's no real drama or any thrills. And like, once again, that goes back to our first topic of the night. I Know What You Did Last Summer remake. It's dumbed down. There's too much comedy. That way you don't ever you don't have anxiety when you watch the movie, because keep in mind, God forbid, you have a serial killer movie with a guy with a hook killing people that gives you some anxiety when you watch it. But they try to counterbalance that with putting all these dumb meta jokes in the film that sort of take you out of it, that even it out. So naturally, now you feel nothing. And I feel like that's what's happening with modern day children's entertainment. I'm not saying you have to be dark and morbid, but just give kids a tone that makes them feel something. You know, it's just not light and fluffy Teletubbies. Then again, I think Teletubbies are much more thought-provoking and terrifying than most children's entertainment these days. So I agree with what you're saying. I think if every young kid could watch the Batman animated series, he'd truly understand what life was all about. It's kind of dark, it's kind of depressing, but there is a good moral message here. And that moral message is like the Mr. Freeze episode. That was so mature for what it was. And we just don't get that. So I agree, yeah. Let's go to the next one here. And the next one comes from Claudia Rogajan, who says, "This is connected to my last chat, but I always wanted to see President Luthor story adopted. I think we might get there, man. I think we might end up getting there. Anyway, having Superman and Batman public enemies adapted into live action. Imagine Superman and Batman in a buddy cop type movie. It'd be so much fun seeing that dynamic." Well, I think there's definitely room for that dynamic if you ever get a Batman and Superman movie at some point. And in this universe, I think they definitely will delve into that buddy vibe. Who knows? But it'll get there. Give it a couple years. But we first got to get through like a Supergirl movie and a whole bunch of other shit no one really cares about, or at least I know I don't. Asher56 says, I missed... Oh, we already answered that. Lee B. Film says, imagine a universe where video game movies have a great reputation, but comic book movies don't. Yeah, that would be like the upside down universe, wouldn't it? And I'm sure there's a universe out there that exists, because statistically speaking, there has to be. And the biggest question you have to ask yourself is, would you rather live in that universe? Imagine if all video game movies had been great. I don't know. It could be interesting. But I think comic books just lend themselves to better storytelling with more lore to back it up, personally speaking. That would be interesting. But hey, if for nothing else, at least we live in a universe where you have some great comic book movies, but also you have Mortal Kombat from 1995. So you can only ask for so much. All right, let's go to the next one here. Night King 01 says, mentioning Michael Bay again makes me think of Pain and Gain. Do you remember that incredible scene where The Rock is in prison and he kills Kurt Angle by frisbeeing a weight at his neck? That scene is so goofy, it makes me laugh. You know what? I sort of forgot that existed. Because I'm always thinking about when The Rock grilled some guy's fingers out on a grill behind a warehouse. Even though that did happen in real life, it's just the way they made a joke about it. Just only Michael Bay could do such things. Hey, I'm trying to get a pump. Okay, the next one comes from Darth Maul's Balls, who says, what are your 3 favorite movies this year? Whew. It's been a weird year, and I'm hard-pressed to say if I have 3 favorite movies, which is kind of scary, but best movies 2020, is it 20? So Sinners might be in there, but I think Sinners might be in the discussion, but there's not a lot. That's the truth. I'm keeping it real with you. I'm trying to think of things like I loved this year. Sinners is probably going to be in that list. Magazine Dreams would be in a top 10. Thunderbolts I thought was okay. Thank God the year's not over, because right now I'd have trouble making a top 10. Warfare, I liked Warfare. I just don't know how much rewatchability it has. Mission Impossible wasn't quite what I was hoping it would be. I liked F1 quite a bit. That'd probably be in a top 10 of the year. But there's stuff coming out. There's still a lot of stuff coming out that I want to see. So, like, the Smashing Machine starring The Rock, I want to see. Ooh, Flight Risk. What a classic that was, right? We all loved the movie Flight Risk, didn't we? Okay. Let's go to the next one here. Joker Face 501 says, John, you ever watched the Boondock Saints movies? I did. I liked the first one. I was not a fan of the sequel. I thought that was kind of just a bad movie, and I don't remember a lot about it. I just remember not liking it that much. But the first one I liked. I liked the independent vibe of it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I used to have the steelbook of both those movies, or one of those movies. I have no clue what happened to it. I think I had the DVD steelbook too. But those, I have not watched either of those movies in a long, long time. But they always had like kind of a cool cult following surrounding them. Skylar Wheelock says, so Miss Honey Matilda is your wife, a gentle and caring teacher who's quietly funny and deeply nurturing. Yeah, kind of. I would say that, but I think my wife has a better sense of humor than Mrs. Honey. But then again, that is not a bad like version. That's a pretty good like character trait. So yeah, it's good. Matilda always creeped me out as a kid. The movie itself, where you had what's her face putting kids in the chokey, a chamber with spikes in it. Jesus. Dustin Rich says Halloween 2018 is a masterpiece. Who hasn't gotten peanut butter on their penis? So relatable. Yeah, why would you put that improv in the movie? I got peanut butter on my penis. Like, what stupid shit is that? And then the plot of Halloween 2018, you basically had two people who had a crime podcast that somehow got Michael Myers' mask because he knew a guy that worked in the... not the forensic, what is whatever. He worked in the police department or whatever in the forensic, not the forensics. What am I thinking of? Where they keep items. What is that called? My brain melts after talking for 3 hours on a live stream. The property room. Yes, the property room. That's the word I'm looking for. And somehow they got Michael Myers' mask, which was used in multiple crime sprees where people were murdered. But now these two podcasters have his mask and full access to him. It's just stupid. Just stupid shit like that. That's the plot? That's what we're doing with this movie? Okay. Okay, Avocado Balls Johnson back again says, Pain and Gain is entertaining. I don't care how insensitive it is when treating the subject matter. A much better workout movie than Magazine Dreams. Man, I think Magazine Dreams is way better than Pain and Gain. But don't get me wrong, I think there was some guilty pleasure enjoyment with Pain and Gain. But I also think if anyone else had directed that movie, it would have been so much better. Michael Bay was the worst decision for that film. But hear me out for a second. Since it was based on true events and it does have some like dark comedic vibes that you could put in there, I think had like someone like the Coen brothers directed Pain and Gain and you had a movie that was more in the same tone and vibe of something like Fargo, which also had like a criminal element to it and had some dark humor, especially with William H. Macy's character. Well, I done told you it's not here. I think if they had that tone with Pain and Gain, that would have been like a great, well-received movie that people would have latched onto. But the fact that Michael Bay directed it, I don't know. But I liked the workout aspects of it, but nothing else seemed to work. Night King 01 says, do you remember Tom Hardy movie The Drop from 2014? I think it's severely underrated, especially since it's James Gandolfini's last performance. Tom Hardy does mumble in it, trying to do a Brooklyn accent, but the monologue he gives at the climax is awesome. I think I did see that movie. Isn't there a dog in the movie, or he knows somebody with a dog or something? And somebody owns a bar or a restaurant? He tends a bar in his cousin's pub and looks the other way when a local mobster uses the joint as a temporary bank. I vaguely remember that movie. I forgot that it existed, but I do vaguely remember watching the movie. I did see it in theaters. Dustin Rich says, is Flight Risk a great comedy? That's the question you have to ask yourself about Flight Risk. And when I was watching it, was thinking to myself, are they trying to make this like a comedic 1990s movie where it's meta and dumb and so dumb that that's the joke? Or were they actually trying to make like a suspenseful action movie? And I'm not sure what the intention was. So like when it comes from Mel Gibson, I like to think that he would have directed something good. I mean, he's directed some quality movies, but I'm not sure what the intention of that movie was. But it was blatantly terrible. But if it was intentional, that's brilliant. But if it wasn't, it was really dumb. So I don't know. I'm not certain what they were going for with that movie. I like to think it's like a meta action movie that makes fun of the genre. But then again, I could be wrong. All right, Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, what should Creed 4 be? I want a great sly standoff. I have no clue what they're going to do with Creed 4 that they haven't already done with the previous 3 Creed movies. I mean, other than just bringing back legacy characters from the Rocky franchise and Rocky himself, I don't know what else you do. I really don't. It could be anything. It could be a series of montage scenes where Adonis Creed just works out like Rocky 4 was, and then he fights like the big Russian guy overseas at the end of the movie. Whatever. It could be anything. I'm sure it will probably conclude with a boxing match and have a training montage. Those 2 things are certain. But I don't know. It could be anything. I hope that they do something a little bit different. Maybe update it for like a new generation. I think there's more they can do with the movie. But I think they need a good antagonist in the film. They need to have a boxing match that I give a shit about. And is Michael B. Jordan wanting to direct this movie again? I think they should get another director. Have Stallone direct it. That's what it needs. Bruce Cook says, what is the intention of Snakes on a Plane? Samuel L. Jackson mess, but at least Taylor Kitsch's character got killed. Dude, I remember seeing that movie once and I thought it was stupid. And to be honest with you, I don't know if I finished Snakes on a Plane. I remember the movie. I remember it had like a catchy soundtrack, but I did not like it. I didn't even know they were making a Creed 4. Are they? I don't know. All right. The movie guy says, have a good night, John. See you next week. Well, thanks, movie guy. Thanks for the questions and thanks for hanging out. And I think I'm going to answer just 1 or 2 more questions, and I think I'm going to wrap up this edition of the live stream because we have been talking for 3 hours and 11 minutes and 35 seconds. So I'm going to answer just a few more questions. So if you guys are in the normal chat or if you guys are YouTube members, please chime in. I'll try to answer as many questions as quickly as I possibly can, or talk about whatever you guys want me to talk about. Dean says, hi, John. Watched Die Hard with Vengeance recently, and I was reminded of how good the elevator scene was. Is there any scene from a movie that makes you think this is why I love movies? Ooh. The Die Hard scene where he's standing in the elevator with everybody and it's like a weird tension. Yeah, it kind of reminds you of like... I like to think they almost borrowed that tension in The Winter Soldier where they have a very similar elevator scene. But anyway, man, there's so many scenes like that exist in movies. I mean, every time, and I say it over and over again, but like we just rewatched Jurassic Park, my wife and I, the other night, and just the scene where where Jeff Goldblum, what was I thinking about? My brain just melted. Oh, the scene where he's explaining chaos theory to Laura Dern. And he's like, you see that? Yeah. So now watch it. Watch the water now. There you go. Like just little moments like that. But I don't necessarily say that's why I love movies. But anytime I watch something like Terminator 2 Judgment Day and I watch like the sequence where John Connor's on his dirt bike going down the LA River as the T-1000 chases him in a tow truck, and then you have the music and the suspense is building up as the T-800's trying to like blow through gates to save John Connor, and then finally he does Oh man, like shit like that is why I love movies. That made me feel something. Why do you cry? I don't know. It's just what humans do, you know? Why? Scenes like that as well. We got one here from Claudia Rogajon who says, speaking of Michael B. Jordan, did you hear about the remake of Thomas Crown Affair that he is directing? My only question is why. They already made one with Pierce Brosnan in 1999, and it was pretty good. Yeah, I've seen that movie a few times. I liked it. I like heist movies like that. Yeah, I don't know if Michael B. Jordan doing heist for like classy art pieces is a movie. Is he going to star in it or just direct it? I don't know. I don't know. That sounds weird to me, man. I don't know. Maybe I like a good heist movie, but that sounds like a weird choice for that. Skylar Wheelock says, what's that one movie moment that made you go, no way, they're actually doing this? Dude, that's a great question. This might not be the best answer. That's kind of a hard question to answer. And I'd like to ask you guys that question. What is a movie moment in a movie that you watch where you think, oh my God, they're doing this? So my first response to that is if like, I'm going to say something about like a recent movie is like when I watched The Substance and she turned into a giant grotesque monster, that to me was like one of those moments where, oh, they're really going for this. And then her face ends up on the sidewalk. But I'm trying to think of like another moment where I thought to myself, oh my God, they're actually doing this. Oh God, I don't know. Somebody else chime in on that one. Give me something to go off of. I'm drawing a blank on that one. It's a good question. Dustin Rich says, what's the most inappropriate movie to have Happy Meal toys based on? Oh, probably something like, I mean, you could do it for The Substance if you really wanted to, or you could do like Silence of the Lambs, or Irreversible would be good. What about that? The next one comes from I've been talking for 3 hours. This is typically the limits of what I can do for a live stream. Easily irreversible. That's what I was thinking. Nova Sonic says the baby scene in the beginning of the Flash movie. Yeah, but you know what the thing about the Flash movie? That truly felt like it belongs in the same universe as the Superman movie. Did it not? Did it not? That felt like it belongs exactly side by side. So if you hated the Flash movie, I don't know how you couldn't hate the Superman movie. If you like the Flash movie, I don't know how you couldn't like the Superman movie. And my thing is like, I liked the Flash movie because it's like a guilty pleasure movie that's just zany and weird. But I know objectively speaking, it's like cinematic baby food. And that's how I feel about the new Superman movie. Bruce Cook says, John, what movies did you end up liking even though the first few scenes come across as idiotic and stupid? See, these questions are hard to answer off the top of my head because that's a very like specific question and I'm trying to think of a good answer for you. Can I be honest with you? I'll tell you this. The opening scene to Mad Max Fury Road, I was a little underwhelmed by because it opens up with Mad Max and the Interceptor, and then immediately his Interceptor gets crashed and destroyed. And I was like, that's it? That's all they're going to do with that? I was like, okay, now what? I felt like it was a little like underwhelming to me. And then the movie picked up even more and more, and I liked it. I'll go with that for now. Every moment in Tusk, yes. That also needed some Happy Meal toys. I didn't like the Flash movie, but I didn't like Superman either. Dustin Rich says, I met I met and talked to David Carradine at a Comic-Con shortly after Kill Bill came out, and then he killed himself. Well, you have to blame yourself for that, Dustin. I'm kidding, man. That's cool. I'm glad you met him, man. I remember hearing how he passed away, and it was quite the interesting way to go. Blu-ray Addict says, "Hey, John, have you ever watched the TV show Smallville? I've watched a few episodes. I did not get into it. Something about TV shows and superheroes never translate well to me. I like the movie versions much more. I just think the TV shows get a little watered down. It's like, okay, so we're going to watch this superhero character do something very superhero-ish for the last 3 minutes of the show because that's all we could afford with the budget. The rest of the show is just him in his normal everyday life talking to people, which could be any show in itself. And then they just have to like utilize that budget for the last 5 minutes of like this superhero action scene. So that's always sort of been my turn off when it comes to those. Skylar Wheelock says, "Is it just me or does your ability to finish a movie in one sitting just vanish as you get older?" No, I've always sort of been like that. I can usually watch, I just don't want to finish the very end of the movie. There's something about it. I just don't want to see it end. I want to keep the spirit alive. So that's why I typically don't finish most movies. If I rewatch them on a very casual experience. Skylar Wheelock says, "What movie, no matter how old, is a 10 out of 10? Oh, Jurassic Park, Terminator 2, Judgment Day. There's two right there. Silence of the Lambs. I don't know if that's for everybody, but it's for me." Michael Witherspoon says, "Sorry, I'm late, John. It's too late to send a super chat? ? I'll take a few more questions if you really want to. I got a few here, so let me answer them. So you got time. You have time. There's always time for one last kiss." Clark Ingleton says, "Yeah, see her back yet? Great horror drama." Yeah, I talked about that when it came out 2 months ago. I did see it, man. I liked it. I don't necessarily love it, but it's definitely like a brutal body horror movie. That scene where the teeth scene on the table, oh, that was intense. I did enjoy it, but I don't know if it's a movie I'd go back and revisit anytime soon. But I didn't mind watching it. Peta Velasquez says, "Hola, who's better, Superman or Spider-Man all time?" I think Spider-Man's a more interesting character to me. I just like the look, the vibe. I think his secret identity as Peter Parker to me is more intriguing than Clark Kent as a reporter. I like kind of like the fact that Peter Parker is this teenage kid dealing with this dilemma and these superpowers. I just think it lends itself to be more interesting and definitely when you're younger, more relatable. So I'm definitely, I think I'm more intrigued by Spider-Man than I ever have by Superman. My guy says, "Damn, John, I got off work at 6 and saw you were going live and didn't think I was going to get to this, but here I am. How has the hard work been going this summer?" It's been probably one of the busiest, most chaotic summers of my life, and it never ends. I've been studying to get this license for this new job, and it's been consuming like 5 hours of my life every day. And I'm so burnt out mentally that it's hard for me to balance movies and then that aspect of my life because they're so different from each other. It's like night and day. So I'm sort of conflicted on who I am and what I'm doing in life. But nevertheless, I'm here right now talking about movies. So thank you for looking at me. But it's been busy, man. It just has. But, you know, I've had a lot of fun this summer, so no complaints thus far. But I think if I won the lottery, life would be really pleasant. Here we go. But thanks for chiming in. I did not think we'd go 3.5 hours. Night King 01 says, "I didn't know there was such a big crowd of people that prefer T1 to T2. Seems like they say the second one is getting a bigger budget, lost a lot of the style of the first. I always thought T2 as the movie James Cameron wanted T1 to be, but with a bigger budget." No, I agree with you. I think if James Cameron had the budget and resources, T1 would have looked a lot more like T2. But the thing is, keep in mind, here's a trick, right? when you don't have a lot of money, but you want a successful movie, if you lean into like the horror genre, you can always capitalize on that because it's the most forgiving genre that exists. And I think with T1, it does have like more of an eerie, seedy horror element to it. You can almost qualify the T-800 in that movie as like a Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers character. You cannot kill him and he just keeps coming after you. And it's definitely more dark and seedy, but I get why some people might prefer that tone. But for me, I love T2. I love the spectacle. I love the scope of the movie. And I think it's done to perfection. I think it is the ultimate best action movie ever made, hands down. There's nothing wrong with the movie. So that's just my preference. I like them both, but I like T2 more. I just like the style and the scope of it, you know. M Guy says, I meant yard work, John. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant my life. Yeah, so yard work's going well. I did have my lawnmower, my riding lawnmower, something broke in the steering shaft of it. He said shaft. But anyway, like now when I go to churn it, I have to like churn it like 3 times to make a churn. So this happened when I was mowing my grass last week, and I had to get my grass mown because it was going to rain the next day, and I just can't have a messy yard. No. People will judge me. So, it broke and I had to mow my grass, and I looked crazy because I was out there mowing it, and you could turn the wheel 3 times and nothing would happen. So like to even mow my grass, it was like the most intense workout I've ever had in my life. And my neighbors probably thought I was high on methamphetamine, but hey, they probably typically do no matter what. So I have to get that fixed. But overall this year, it's just been, I don't know where you guys live, but where I live, it has either been so hot are so humid and rainy, there is no in between. It's like we live in the prehistoric era where it's just really wet and muggy or too hot. That's what life has been like this summer. So I haven't done a lot of things outside, but that's how it's going. Alan Smithy says it was an auto asphyxiate. Autoerotica asphyxiation. I think that's what you're saying here. Chat's moving too quick. There we go. That killed Bill. Yeah, I know. He hung himself jerking off. There you go. Michael Witherspoon says, just watch The Amateur. What a boring movie. Laugh out loud. Oh, I hate The Amateur. Talk about a movie that should have been released straight to DVD in 2007. Why was that movie made? You have something that could have been a cool concept, or maybe would have lent itself to like an interesting limited series on Hulu, or maybe it would have been a series that would have got canceled after the first season because ultimately it's just kind of boring and no one cares. But they took this character who's afraid to pull a trigger and kill someone, but he wants vengeance for the death of his wife. But he's a tech expert, so he can do anything technological. He can set up something to blow up. He can make devices. He can have a glass pool at the top of a skyscraper collapse in on itself, killing someone in the most convoluted way and possibly killing other innocent bystanders. But the one thing that this guy can't do, Rami Malek, is pull a trigger to kill someone. But what he can do is trigger explosive devices that blow up somebody. So it's like your ideology is a bit flawed. You're sort of like a cuck that wants to kill people, but you're afraid to actually kind of do it. You're sort of like MacGyver, but not as interesting and less charismatic. And the storyline revolving around this shitty movie just is nonsensical, and you stop caring about it 25 minutes through. Or at least I know I did. So yes, The Amateur is one of the most boring, sloppily written movies of the year. And it just feels like a movie that would have been made 15 or 20 years ago. It feels like an early 2000s movie. It really does. That would have come out and no one would have talked about it. And I don't understand how it got made. I really don't understand how they were like, I don't understand how studio execs sit around and go, okay, The Amateur, it's going to cost $75 million. Clearly people want to see this movie, right? But no, I'm sorry. Am I being too harsh? Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, favorite Terminator movie after the second one and why? The thing about all the other Terminator movies, and honestly, the only two I'm going to talk about even sort of liking is going to be Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and Terminator Salvation. Because everything after that, Terminator Genesis and Terminator Dark Fate, were just atrocious, bastardized versions of what the Terminator franchise should and could have been. Just terrible casting decisions and bad plots. And then the movies had like Jai Courtney in them. They just had bad casting choices throughout. And then they just made Arnold feel like a joke. So I liked Terminator Rise of the Machines for this. I liked aspects about it, but it's not good. But my favorite thing about the film was the last 5 minutes of the movie, where the goal of Judgment Day for John Connor was never to stop it, but only to survive it. And when they go down in that bunker at the very end of the movie, that should have been the beginning of the next movie. That would have been cool. That would have been interesting. And then I think in Terminator Salvation, I liked Christian Bale as John Connor, and I liked his interpretation because I was like, this kind of feels like a badass John Connor. Okay, I'm on board with this. This is John Connor, leader of the resistance. If you can hear this, keep fighting. The machines are weak. You know, like I liked that. I did. And I also liked the teaser trailer to the movie, and I liked some of the score, but once again, it's casting choices that ruined the later Terminator sequels. And with that, you had Jai Courtney, or not Jai Courtney, sorry. You had someone sort of as generic as Jai Courtney. You had Jake Sully, Avatar. What's his name? Sam something, right? Sam Worthington. There it is. That's how forgettable he is. And he just did not add anything to that movie. And I think it needed a stronger actor that was a little more charismatic, had more screen presence to counterbalance what Christian Bale was doing in that movie. And and then it got this weird AI movie anyway, there were some cool ideas, but ultimately I might almost lean towards Terminator Salvation or T3. Those are like the only two sequels I could kind of rewatch again. So I hope that answered the question. Skylar Wheelock says, what movie did you expect to be meh, but turned out to be really good? I'm picking on Logan Lucky. I expected meh, but I thought it was really good. That's a good choice. Mediocre movies that surprised me. Oh, man, I don't know. You got to give me a year. That's too broad. I'm trying to think. Like, I'm pretty good at seeing a trailer and thinking that movie's probably going to be bad or good. I don't know. I don't know. I'll ask the chat this, and if you guys have one, please let me know. What is a movie that you thought would be mediocre and it blew you away? Hopefully Sam isn't watching this. Yeah, me too. Well, Sam Worthington typically watches all my live streams. So Dustin Rich says, T2 is more entertaining overall, but I have to admit, I don't think it's paced well, but the first one is pretty well oiled machine of a sci-fi slasher. Yeah, definitely sci-fi. That's a great way to put it. Sci-fi slasher. I think there are no pacing issues with the second movie. I think it's paced pretty well. Now, did you watch like the extended director's cut where it had like extra scenes? Because that doesn't feel very well paced. I will agree, but The Smurfs, there you go. Novasonic says The Island was pretty epic, and I didn't expect much going into it. See, at the time The Island came out, I was sort of into Michael Bay movies, so I was hoping it would be good. And plus Scarlett Johansson, whenever she was in a movie, I was like, oh, I'm going to be entertained probably. But yeah, The Island's a great movie. Matt Mobile says Bullet Train, I liked it. I didn't love Bullet Train that much. Night King 01 says Flight Risk, that's funny. Skylar Wheelock says, I thought you were skeptical of the first Deadpool movie. I'm glad you remember stuff because I do not. I think I was skeptical of the first Deadpool movie. It was surprisingly better than I thought it would be. Yes, that's a good one. I'm sure there's another. No, that was kind of, I don't know. Most movies kind of turn out the way I think they're going to be honest with you. Bruce Cook says Chopping Mall. I've never seen it. Bruce Cook says Eight-Legged Freaks. I never thought that was good. Manuel says Edge of Tomorrow. That's a good one. Yeah, Scarlett Johansson in The Island, I think, was like, that was peak. That was peak for me. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, hey guys, look, I'm number 3 on the contributor. Well, thanks, Stuckman's Hot Bottom. Never thought I'd say that. But then again, anything's possible. Stuckman's Hot Bottom also says, want to see Hacksaw Ridge 2 or Passion of the Christ 2? I'd probably rather watch Passion of the Christ 2, to be honest with you. I just think that would be more interesting. Hacksaw Ridge was fine, but I don't think I need to see a sequel to that movie. But thanks for the question, man. And also, your next question was, favorite Terminator... Oh, we already answered that. Okay. John, you've almost made it to 4 hours. Please go 4 hours and 15 minutes to break your record. I can't, man. That's another 45 minutes, and I am hungry. Bruce Cook says Scarlett Johansson was in Eight-Legged Freaks. I forgot she was in that movie. I forgot that movie existed. That was around the time David Arquette had like an acting career, and he was also in the WCW wrestling movie. What was it? Never Back Down? Was it not Never Back Down? Ready to Rumble. My name's Fireman Fred, and I'm gonna hose ya. I love that line. All right. Dustin Rich says, what would you say is the best bathroom scene in a movie? There's a lot of good bathroom scenes when it comes to movies, isn't there? I mean, if you want to go comedic, you have Dumb and Dumber, or you have Harry taking a crap, and then you have, but on a lighter note, you know, maybe not a lighter note, but you also have some like really cool fight scenes in bathrooms, like True Lies. You have this really cool fight scene with Arnold and some terrorist in a bathroom. And the scene that reminded me of that movie the most was the one that we got in Mission Impossible Fallout with Henry Cavill, Tom Cruise fighting the one dude in the bathroom, which I thought was a cool bathroom fight scene as well. So there's a multitude of good bathroom scenes. Yeah, we'll go with those. Gator Mollusky says, thoughts on Ari Aster. Saw Eddington today, and it was batshit crazy. Can't understand this dude's films. Am I an idiot? No, and you're not an idiot. And the thing is, someone gave me shit for saying I didn't want to see Eddington in theaters because I just knew what it was going to kind of be. I knew what it was going to be, and I'd rather watch it at home. But I have friends who like Ari Aster movies and like appreciate movies like Beau is Afraid and stuff like that. And I saw Beau is Afraid and I thought it was fine, but I'd never watch it again. And I just knew it was going to be a series of craziness and wackiness that was going to feel discombobulated and uneven. And ultimately, that's sort of what I'm hearing of the criticisms of the film. Maybe I'll watch it one day, but it's not anything I feel I need to put on pants to go see at the theater. Now, if it was great and I was hearing better things about it, I'd probably go check it out. But I'll watch it at home at some point. Okay. Manuel says Austin Powers, Casino Royale's opening bathroom scene. Well, that guy just goes to the bathroom and then comes out of it. I don't know. Yeah, True Lies is great. Not enough people talk about that movie. You want a solid 1990s action movie and a James Cameron movie that like feels sort of like it's underrated that no one talks about? Check out True Lies. Jim Carrey kicking his own ass in the bathroom. Yes, that is. What are you doing, man? I'm kicking my own ass. And me and my wife just rewatched Ace Ventura: Pet Detective again the other night, and I had not seen the movie in a couple years, but I actually remember seeing Ace Ventura in theaters. And just watching Ace Ventura: Pet Detective again, you could not remake that movie today. Laces out, Dan. You could not do that same thing again today. People are way too sensitive. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. Especially the scene where he just kissed, he kissed, what's her name? And, God, I can't, Ray Finkel. Not Ray Finkel, but Ray Finkel is Ihorn. Yeah. Yeah, where Ace kisses Ihorn, and then he realizes it's a man. Then he goes home and plunges his face and pukes in the toilet and then cries in the shower. You couldn't get away with that today. Like, you just couldn't do it. Isn't that insane? I don't know. All right. Skylar Wheelock says, would you rather fight the Powerpuff Girls every day for a year or Batman once a year for 10 years? Probably Batman. He won't kill me. But then again, did the Powerpuff Girls kill people? I don't know. I never watched it. Dustin Rich says, would you get flight risk haircut for $500 super chat? I don't know, man. Let's see the super chat. Anything's possible. Probably not. $500, nah. I have some places to be in the next month or two, and if I cut my hair like my brain is melt when I can't remember Mark Wahlberg's name, it's time to go. If I cut my hair like that, I just don't think it would pan out well. Now, $5,000 super chat, show me your clippers. The next one comes from the movie guy who says, I'm still here, going to listen to Aragon audiobook tonight. Have a good night, John. Well, enjoy that audiobook, man. I hope it's great. And thanks for the questions, movie guy. And just for you, movie guy, since you're so dedicated, have a good night. All right. Yeah, I heard the 4K True Lies restoration was crap. But then again, all James Cameron 4K transfers are really bad. For a guy who's so anal retentive about the way his movies look, why do your movies look so shitty on 4K? Finkel is Ihorn? Ihorn is Finkel? John, do you have the Terminator 4K? Yes, I do. Stuckman's Hot Bottom says, was anyone here when M gave a $500 super chat for Christmas? That was awesome. Yeah, M. Whatever happened to M? Where did M go? But yeah, it's things like that. I'm a lucky guy to do what I do. So that was awesome. John gets the weirdest questions. I like my questions. I'm glad that we're not just talking about the new Superman movie for 2 hours. I like my questions. That's why I do this. All right, guys. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up the live show right there. We have been talking for 3 hours and 41 minutes. But I do want to say, guys, thanks for hanging out tonight. This was a very enjoyable live stream. So look out for a couple new reviews coming early next week and some early reactions. I will be seeing Fantastic Four, The First Steps, on Monday in Chicago. So look out for a reaction video of that. I hope it's good. I'm debating if I want to take my Galactus popcorn bucket with me to the theater. Also, look out for a review of that movie that week. Some other stuff happening next week. Maybe I'll crap out I Know What You Did Last Summer review tomorrow. I don't know. I feel like I'm already tired of talking about the movie. But anyway, guys, as always, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys next Friday with a brand new Flick Pick live show. See you guys next time. Bye.